Pounding me, and it was a good time. Thank you very much.
Thanks for helping me.
Make sure to subscribe to this guy's channel, DanTheWolfman.
You respect the game, man. You know the game. You know what you're talking about, and you're pretty credible.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
Ah! Ah! Whoa, dude! Next the fuck. What's wrong with you, man? Ah! Hey, what's up, man? You fuck my boy. Fuck my boy. Hey, man, what's up? What's up? You want to fight? Dude, what the hell, man? Ah! Ah! Fucker, fuck you, try to stop me. Back up, dude, back up! Hey, man, I want to problem.
What's up, bro?
Hey, man, I want to show. I want to show. That's my one. Okay.
Come on, go on, bro.
Boom. I don't want trouble.
Problem, bro? What's up?
Back off, dude. Back off. Ah! Boom, and I break. Don't touch me, bro. It's time to leave. Get your hand off me. Oh, you want to play it rough, huh? Don't touch me. What the hell are you doing, man? Relax. Wrestling stuff. Roll over. Give me your hands. Roll over. Give me your hands. Wah! Wah! Whoa, back off, dude. Back off, dude. Whoop. As I kick off. Oh my God. Wow. Dingity, dingity, ding. And head twist. Go in here. Dingity, 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 ding. Double armbar. Boom. Boom. Here. Oh, and now I slam. And now. So we're going to do the same back step to the omoplata setup. I'm going to go to the triangle, and I'm going to bring it to wrist lock city. So step over Z, pick up his head, switch, come to the triangle. I want to reach under, finish right here. But if I can't finish, look, I'm going to grab 2-on-1 and Americana. Or wrist lock. Or wrist lock. So all my wrist locks set up here, plus I have Americana here, Kimura here, or pressing arm lock. Or you can do both together. Guys, we've been doing a lot of grabbing and everything like that. Let me grab my knee. Hold on a second. Now, this is a situation that happens while I come out. He grabs my wrist. Like that. Like this, yeah. I can't get my hand back. Normal, right? And he's holding tight, he's strong. I'm just going to step in and sit. I'm going to hop in, sit, and try to sweep it. If I don't sweep it, I come right to the same place. It's cold for a body. You don't have to be my side. Of course, I go sweep with it. But if he's my side, when he grabs it, I step in. But it's the same move. Whether it's on a tall guy or a short guy. I can grab his wrist, but this is when he grabs me. Quick. I don't fuck about. So, my side, right here. Right to the tricep. His arm is locked. You good? Drop in. Shoot. Come on. Breathe in. Get it to the ground. Same depends on where he is. One's more judo, that one's more wrestling. But it's still judo. Hold it this. Okay? Easy, quick moves to pull off. And if I miss, I'm in good position. So I'm my leg on. Hold tight, stop.
Hey, happy Father's Day. DVD is 42% off. I hope you take advantage of that. And welcome, Razor Rey Garcia. How you doing today, sir?
I went down the wrong way. Dude, when he pulled that knife on you and you ran, you have the Steven Seagal ponytail, but you didn't run like Steve.
No, we'll have to talk about Steven Seagal later, huh?
Yeah, we'll talk about your dad.
Good morning, Vietnam.
Good evening. Good morning. Good afternoon, America. Good afternoon, ATL.
So, Rey Garcia, Razor Rey Garcia, give us and give everybody out there just a brief background. Guys, you're going to want to stay tuned because Rey has had a very unique life and he's done a lot of things. He's been there and done that, both in and out of the martial arts world. And I think you got a lot of wild stories for everybody today. So just give us just a brief rundown.
And some of them are actually true.
So what's your background? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a Sagittarius. I'm a New York City guy. In case you couldn't tell by the accent, I was born in New York, Staten Island guy. born in New York City, 1963, which means I am older than dirt. Grew up in the 60s and 70s. Wound up going into martial arts at about 13. 20 years old, I joined the police department, NYPD. I did 10 years as a patrolman. My last 11, I did as a detective in the Fugitive Enforcement Division. In the warrant squad, I was a warrant officer. Did the worst of the worst. Did the FAT team, Fugitive Apprehension team, and the WOW team, the worst of the worst team. So I had a very unique experience in that job. I loved every day but two. My last 2 days, that's when I retired.
And you're also an extremely decorated martial artist. You also spent some time in Afghanistan. You've also been a bodyguard to the stars. So later on, we're going to talk about all that. What's your martial art ranks? And you had boxing background too. What's some of the ranks of martial arts you got?
I started at 13 in Goshindo Kempo karate and samurai jiu-jitsu, which was an offshoot of hakaru. Untitled hakaru and samurai, and that was a combination of hakaru jiu-jitsu and the combatives that my instructor, Grandmaster Seringano, had learned as a hand-to-hand combat instructor in World War II in Korea. The Sykes-Fairbairn method, the old combatives, kill or be killed stuff.
All right, so before we get into all that, and you being NYPD detective, before you being a bodyguard of the stars, big names, before all your bouncing stories, before going to Afghanistan, before we get into all that and all your deep martial arts background and really applying different techniques from different martial arts live, I'm sure, on the Felony Fugitive Task Force. What can you paint a picture of us, Ray? Be Martin Scorsese for a minute. You're growing up in the 60s and 70s through the wild 80s and 90s in New York City. Can you paint a picture? What neighborhood did you grow up in and all that? And what kind of guys were you seeing around in the ecosystem that was New York in those times?
I was born in Staten Island, which is a little bit more removed. A lot of Italians, a lot of working class city workers. In my neighborhood, you were either a city worker or a mobster. That's kind of how it went. You had both sides of the equation. On the Irish guys, you had a lot of IRA guys. They were tied in with the IRA. My neighbor, I'm not going to mention his name. He's still alive, but he was high up in the IRA. You had a lot of the judge lived across the street from me, but I delivered papers to Paul Castellano. So that's the kind of life. Paul lived in a different neighborhood, but I went to school. I went to summer school up by his house, and I would bring the stuff to his house from this guy Sid, who ran a candy store. I'd have to bring the papers up to Mr. Castellano's house. So
we're talking corner candy stores and liquor stores, and we got cops over here. We got construction workers over there, and I
was the Cuban guy.
And so they're all kind of knowing who each other is in this weird ecosystem, if you will. Like, what was it like?
It was great. Honestly, it was great. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody had respect for everybody. That's how Gotti made his bones in Staten Island with Jimmy Mack, his father. He whacked his father in a bar, him and a couple other guys. So these, everybody knew, everybody's world, but there was always especially if you were a cop there or a fireman, there was always a level of respect that they gave you, and we showed them because we all grew up together, But you were either on this side of the law or on that side of the law. There was no in between. If you're in between, I'm not hanging out with you.
And you kind of had the politicians and the construction workers, but really the unions, and they were involved, and it kind of all sort of worked in a weird way, right?
It was a great place to grow up. And then it was just a jump on the ferry. You're in Manhattan in 20 minutes. You're downtown. I I worked in all the bars in the village, in Greenwich Village, or you jump in the car, take the bus over, and my girlfriend lived in Bay Ridge, so you'd have all the Bay Ridge scene. It was an incredible life, incredible place to grow up. Everybody, like I said, everybody knew everybody, so you always had to be kind of careful of who was who, what was what.
So, all right. So little Ray, what were you like in high school? How old were you when you started martial arts?
I was 13. I was getting into a lot of fights all the time, and my dad didn't know what to do with me. My mom didn't know what to do with me. And like I was the the Spanish kid with the Spanish last name, growing up in all the Irish Italian neighborhood. So, it wasn't that over level. But if somebody called you a spick, somebody was getting their mouth busted.
And back then, it wasn't uncommon for people to actually settle things one-on-one.
Oh no!
Throw fists.
Everybody would stand back, and the two guys would throw down. Later on, it changed. You'd have some gang fights and some group fights, but usually, if you got called out in the neighborhood, it was everybody stood back. They made a circle, and it was on.
If you talk shit, get hit, right? Get hit.
The problem was the cops bringing me back to mom and dad.
So when's the first time you really got in trouble? Did your dad give you a whipping if the cops brought you back?
Well, yeah. Well, I always got two whippings. One when I jumped out the window and ran, and then when I came back. I never learned Spanish that well because whenever I heard my father yelling in Spanish, I was in trouble. Out the window.
Out the window. Okay, so what made you want to be a cop? And you were 20. How did that all happen?
Well, actually, it all stemmed from the same thing from my martial arts. And one of my friends was murdered. So when I was 13, I was getting into these fights all the time. My dad brought me down to the dojo. Now, you have to imagine this. Look back, 1970s. It was down in Port Richmond, right? So you have to go through the back of this car dealership, an old used car dealership, up these stairs, into a door. It was all black and red door, and there was a big Japanese kanji on it. And walking up these stairs, pitch black, right? And all you hear from upstairs is boom, 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 body slamming, people yelling, "Us! Us!" I didn't know what was going on. So I go up these stairs, and it was like a whole world opened up for me. There's all these pictures and trophies, and there's an office, and there's this guy with gray hair sitting behind a desk with eyes that could look right through you. That was Master Seringano. And my dad brought me up to him, and he looked at me. He goes, "Oh, yeah, Ray, right? Yeah. He goes, I heard about you. I heard you like to fight." I said, well, yeah. Yes, sir. Did you get into a lot of fights? He goes, I said, yes, sir. I was scared, petrified of this guy. And he goes, okay, good. You're going to come here and fight every day. We had no money. My dad, he worked hard, but we had no money. So I was like, I'm only 13. I don't have a job. He goes, you know how to push a broom? You know how to clean a window? He goes, you show up here 45 minutes before your class every day. You clean the bathroom. You wipe the mats down. You clean up. And that's how you pay for your lessons. So I learned responsibility, and I learned martial arts at the same time. I never paid for a martial art lesson in my life.
Pretty much the same thing here. Pretty much. At least once I was done with Taekwondo, or mostly done with Taekwondo. After that, I paid one jiu-jitsu school for a 3-month summer just because it was under world champion Homeo Barai.
Oh, Homeo Barai.
Yeah, so I did. That's like the only time I've paid at a big gym or MMA gym or fight team or anything. That's the only time I'm like, okay, because there was Alberto Crane and him, and not only was I doing the jiu-jitsu with him, but I was sparring Muay Thai with him. He's the one who taught me how to do the switch punch. So I hit him with jump back side kicks to the liver when he would telegraph his overhand right. But I also got him, a world champion jiu-jitsu guy, is actually the guy who taught.
Romo's a big guy, man. He's tall.
Yeah, how to 6'1", I think, how to do the switch punch. So that's my switch punch series cluster number 2 on my YouTube right now. You guys ain't watching it. My people are making fun of it, but I'm telling you, it's really advanced stuff. A big edge up on everyone else. My advanced MMA neo striking cluster fighting system, cluster number 2. That video went live a few days ago. That whole thing came off of him teaching me how to do the switch punch or the Superman or the lead Superman jab, whatever you want to call it, the lead, switch jab, which is really a cross, switching into southpaw. So that's like the only time in all these years I've really like had to pay. But how did that lead you into becoming going into the NYPD?
Well, one of the head best fighters there, Ralph Gastaburo, Sensei Gastaburo, he wound up going into the police department, and he was a world karate champion. He was East Coast karate champion. He fought in Sunnyside Gardens. The karate that you guys see today, that kids see today, doesn't look anything like the karate that was going on back in the day. If you see some of the old films, it kind of looks like the touchy stuff. But in Sunnyside Gardens in Manhattan, or if you went up, that was in Queens, if you went to the Garden where they had the real karate matches, it was a bloodbath. It was
there was this VHS documentary, the King of Kings or something like that.
I've never seen it.
It showed old footage, early 80s, I think late 70s, like mid to late 70s, early 80s. It showed footage of like hardcore karate in New York at that time when they were really going after each other. Something like that. The Kings of Karate, the King of Kings, something like that. So yeah, people that just know McDojo stuff compared to how things were back in the day, and even the judokas I trained with from the Detroit Judo Club in the 50s. One guy put me to sleep once with a collar choke. Those guys knew Newaza too. Things changed over time. Judo gets watered down. Karate, Taekwondo gets watered down. And I got to say, we're both jiu-jitsu black belts, Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belts. Even jiu-jitsu's gotten watered down.
Unfortunately, yeah.
It's all sport now, and it's kind of lost the street self-defense, the street fighting, the fighting on the beaches of Rio, the Vale Tudo days, the dojo storming days. That kind of got all lost.
Hickson, Hoist has never left it. Hickson has been bringing it back. I got my Pedro Sauer shout out, Master Sauer. Whenever I get a chance to train with him, and Fernando Salvador.
Yeah, and these guys really do the self-defense. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to train with them, but they're some of the few that are trying to, and the Volante brothers. There's some of the few that are trying to hold on to the self-defense roots of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
And that's what I'm looking to bring back and put it together with my gun fu and my street experience. And that's why I'm going to give you a shameless plug right here. Get that DVD, the Combatives DVD, guys. Get all my guys that have watched it have like, he moves just like you do. I said, well, we come from the same background. We have the same. We did catch, we did jiu-jitsu, we did Muay Thai, we've done boxing, we've done kung fu, we've done. I haven't done Sistema, but everything else.
Thank you.
I do jiu-jitsu, but the Aikido is the same moves, just different training methods.
When you have like real world experience, when you have a chance to test things out as a security guard, as a bouncer, as a cop, you kind of figure out what works.
Yeah, that was the hard way. That was the hard way. My instructor,
pressure testing. Real street fights, real self-defense. Yeah. That's the pressure testing.
They would be afraid to show me stuff. They'd be like, I'm afraid to show you something because you can go out and try it in the bar. I did.
So how do you go in did you have to go through an academy?
Yeah. So to get back to the story. So,
and were your parents into that? Did your parents back that? Because it would give you discipline and direction?
No, I was a wild card. So they got me in the dojo, and kind of that became my that was my home. That was my place. That was my safe space.
What about becoming a cop? Were they happy about that?
Yeah. My brother became a state trooper. He's a retired state trooper sergeant. My sister, one became a lawyer, one became a nurse. But My brother and I both went into law enforcement. My parents were real happy with it because they thought I was going to jail.
Yeah, one way's better than the other, right?
It was kind of, for me, it was, and that was the path I was going on. If it wasn't for my brother and for Ralph, I was going, and Mr. Seringano too, because they pushed me towards getting myself straight. Because Seringano was connected. He was a connected guy, but he didn't want that for me. He was like, "No, you should go the other way," and he really pushed me.
So let's hear some of the best NYPD stories. I mean, take us through beginning. Are you just working a beat to becoming a detective to working on the squad?
I'll give you my first day on the street, and that kind of will sum up what the early 80s were like in Lower East Side of Manhattan. So my very first day on patrol, okay, kid, you're going to Rivington and Forsyth. You have these two blocks, that's it, in Manhattan. But 2 blocks in Manhattan, that's your whole world. So you're going on this street from here to here between the park and this street. So it's 2 blocks. So the one guy who was he had the post before me, it was called an NSU, Neighborhood Stabilization Unit. Whenever the rookies got out, they would dump them into this training unit, which was the NSU, and they would put them in cars. You would work with a more experienced officer. You would go on foot patrols. So your sergeant would come by, but you had some support. My first day, they took me out, stuck me on the street on Rivington, and said, "Okay, see you in 8 hours." Didn't tell you what to do. You have to figure it out for yourself. So I get to the street, I'm looking up.
Policing back then, so you have to figure out who all the players are and what their games are.
It wasn't hard to figure out because there's a line of people lined up, queued up on the sidewalk, and the bucket comes down, and they put their money in the bucket, and the bucket goes up, and it comes down with their dope, and they take their dope and they walk. Which that's legitimately, no joke. That's what I walked into my very first day. My very first day on the street.
Yeah.
So you have to figure that out.
Do you know what year that was? When did you first become NYPD?
January. I went on the department. I swore in January 4th, 1984, and this was in December. So I just got out of the academy.
Whoa, wait. So 84 wasn't like October 84 when the crack epidemic started in New York?
Say again?
Wasn't like 3 months earlier, 3 months earlier? Isn't that 80? Was it 84 or 83? Isn't that when the crack epidemic really hit New York?
Oh yeah. This was prime crack time. This was all building up.
So that's when $10, $5, $10 crack rocks. Everybody's starting to.
Yeah, but heroin was still big there. So you had crack. Crack was just starting up. AIDS was just starting up. We didn't know what it was. It was called. They called it. The first time I ever heard it was gay cancer. That's what I heard it was. So we were just dealing with the AIDS epidemic and the crack epidemic, and the price of heroin had just come down really, really low because they were bringing it in from China and from Mexico now, and Afghanistan, of course. So the price had dropped there. So guys were dying on the street. It was a rough time, and this became Operation Pressure Point. So it became a drug. Before that, street cops never touched drugs because there was too much corruption involved. But back in the 80s, when they had Pressure Point, they wanted you to became the first. It was an initiative to try to clean up the streets. That's when they gentrified the neighborhoods. They wanted to clean up the streets, get the drug dealers out. This is what we called before 42nd Street became Disney World. This was when it was all pimps and pornographic movie houses and little seedy hotels. There was martial arts there too. They had some of the best karate schools were right there in 42nd Street.
Who doesn't like martial arts and hoes?
You said I didn't.
Yeah, I said it.
You got the ponytail.
So, you got to make a living.
Ponytail, I'm telling you.
Why? So, before you get to the detective, are there any big busts you did before that, or any street fights, or guys that were you're trying to put the cuffs on them, they're fighting. Are there any crazy
stories
before you get to detective? Or do you just want to talk in generalities?
Well, no, I'll tell you, the statute of limitations is up, so I can talk about anything.
Yeah, well, things were a little different back then. If you had to club somebody, you could.
Well, that day when I walked down the street, most of the people left right away when they saw you, but there was a couple of guys hanging out. They don't belong on a block. It's not that block. So I was like, look, guys, where do you live? Oh, we live. What are you doing on the block? Well, we're waiting for our friend. I said, listen, I'm going to go have my coffee. Go have my coffee and eggs in the little Spanish restaurant around the corner. Read my newspaper. I'll be back in about half an hour. Be gone when I get back. I leave. Go have my coffee. Go have my eggs. Go talk to the nice little Spanish girls. In the over on Delancey Street. Beautiful girls. So half an hour later, I walk back. The 3 guys are still there. Nice stick. Crack. Cuff them up. Take them in. That was my first arrest. Because you had to take control of the neighborhood. But I'll tell you what, a few months later, the kids were able to come outside. The mothers were able to come outside, clean up the block. So the families were able to come back and have a life. That's who it's for. That's why community policing is good. You clean up.
Did any of these guys try to fight with you when they were getting arrested? Did you have to wrist lock people?
I almost got killed on that block. Funny story. I went to lunch. Erna Rodriguez. It was not Rodriguez. Erna. She was a Haitian girl, and she joined the department. We were best buddies, So we would go have lunch together. There was an old folks home in the park, like a senior center. So we would go have lunch there, sit down, have our lunch together with the old people, talk to them, And Erna and I had lunch. I go back to my post, and there was a school on the corner, so I sneak in. I got my binoculars. I'm watching, and these guys are going up and down the stairs. They're dealing out of the apartment building, so I know where they're at.
Yeah.
So I see where they're keeping the drugs. Anyway, 2 guys go in. I go chasing them in. All right, you guys are under arrest. Now I got 1 pair of handcuffs, all right, a gun. I go for my radio to call for help. I left it at lunch.
Oh, shit.
So now I'm like, what do I do here? They noticed real quick. They weren't stupid. And it turned into a brawl. And I was fighting these 3 guys. I had a blackjack. That's what saved my life.
Really?
I was able to, the blackjack, close quarters, hands down, in a tight. If you have to have a fight in a phone booth, blackjack's the best thing you can have. I threw one guy down an air shaft. He broke his leg. I had the other 2 guys. I cuffed them together. I bring the first 2 guys out. I had to get an ambulance for the other guy. And Erna comes running up. She's like, "Oh, you forget something?"
You threw a guy down an air shaft?
Down an air shaft, yeah.
Isn't that Steven Seagal? Were they Jamaican twins?
Yeah, but it wasn't that far. He only broke his leg.
Oh, only broke his leg. He didn't fall and impale himself on that elevator.
Yeah, no. But if they had gotten my gun, they would have killed me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a serious job. So that's early on, and you're fighting 3 guys with a blackjack.
Yeah, that was my first month on the job.
Did you use your martial arts skills and jiu-jitsu wrist locks and stuff?
Yeah, well, I've disarmed a guy with a knife, gun, handgun, and a sniper. All right.
Well, you got to talk about those stories. Tell them in that order. Let's hear about the knife.
Well, the knife. I was actually I got transferred out to Staten Island. Hated it. I was over the 123rd precinct, which is we used to call it Mayberry. So I went from the Lower East Side of Manhattan to the slowest precinct in the city. Anyway, I was out there. We went on a run. I was doing a solo car that day, and they called the guy with a knife outside of the bank. He's acting erratic, so go charging down there, and I get there in time to see the guy running away. He runs into the woods, so I chased him into the woods, and he turned. And this is where I always tell guys, listen, guys talk about Aikido, and they badmouth Aikido, and they badmouth the wrist locks and everything. And I'm a wrist locker. I'm a dirty wrist locker, as you well know. And they say, "Oh, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work." It works. It works. Saved my life. I went into autopilot and Sankajo, boom, right away.
Remember, he turned and he stabbed at you, or he was slashing at you, or
he
what?
He turned, and I hit the wrist lock and threw him, boom, down. I got cut, but I got a scar on my thumb from it. But I'll take that. And
Kotagaeshi, you threw him with Kotagaeshi?
Kotagaeshi with, and I tattooed Smith & Wesson on the side of his head.
I think he deserves that. He tried to stab you.
Yeah, I didn't shoot him.
Nowadays, people would be up in arms. Oh, that poor defenseless guy that tried to friggin' kill you with a knife.
Well, that's the thing. That's the good thing about martial arts, especially judo in the street. I was doing warrants one time, me, Paprika, and John Searles, and we're over in the projects, and we see these guys, and Pat's like, "Those guys got a warrant on them." I was like, "Okay," so we pull up, and Pat's like, "Don't worry, they're not going to run." And they ran. I'm chasing the guy through the projects, and he turns and he goes to hit me, and I hit him with Tayatoshi, but he didn't rotate, so he went face first. And I cuffed him, and I'm picking him up, and I'm walking him out of the projects, and some folks are there, and they didn't really see what happened, but they see this guy. I look fine. He's smashed. He's bleeding. And they're like, "Oh, police brutality. You're hitting him, blah, blah, blah." And there was these wonderful old ladies there, African-American ladies. And they're like, no. The officer never hit him. He grabbed them, and they both fell down.
Judo is beautiful because it's not you hitting them. It's the earth.
It was quite
Hey, I don't control gravity, man. Gravity happens.
What can I do? Forget about it.
So
yeah, martial arts became my job in the police department. When I went to warrants, I was the body guy. So whenever we went on a raid, let me back it up. Most people, when they get in trouble, 95% of the people are just regular people. They just screw up. And most of them, you can just call them and say, "Hey, listen, we're going to come pick you up, or you're going to come meet me in court. We'll make an appointment." And then you have the other guys that you have to chase down a little bit. But whenever you're doing a real bad
career criminal guys, the guys that will fight, the guys that will stab, the guys that will.
The guys that will fight back is even smaller. Anybody can run. Running's free, I used to say. You can run. Running's free. I'm going to chase you. You're not going to get hit. But if you fight, you're going to get a turban. Fighting costs you. Running's free.
So judo and even Aki jiu-jitsu type stuff works if you can make it work. If you're a fighter in your heart, and if you can make it work.
Say it again, please.
If you're a fighter in your heart and you're a tough guy, and you can make it work.
You can make it work.
Yeah, you can make it work.
Anything work. But yeah, you have to practice it. You have to practice it.
And you get better the more real experience you get.
Yeah, absolutely.
The more I bounce, the better I got. The
better you got. The same thing. The same experience because you're using it for real. You know what works because it's tried and tested for real.
So let's hear about the pistol disarm.
Oh, the pistol. Well, that was it was Crown Heights riots. There's a couple of them in Crown Heights. I just happened to walk into a restaurant at the right time, and there was the cops fighting this other guy, and he had a silver automatic. At the time, we only had revolvers, so I knew it was the bad guy's arm. So I just snapped that. That was an easy one.
She walked in, it was going on, and you just snatched it?
It was going on, yeah. I did a Juji Katami, broke his arm.
Like standing up,
standing up, yeah. Standing up, boom.
Because he was here, so you were behind his elbow, so you just grabbed his wrist or the gun and snapped it?
And just dropped on it. Yeah, all my body weight snapped and broke his arm. The other one was we were on a warrant with Joe Dulce Musco. I believe it was Joe Dulce Musco. I'm going to say it was him or Mike Moore. I don't remember. But went there, and the guy's gun was on top of the shelf, and he went for it. And he grabbed the gun. I just grabbed the slide, popped it out of his hand, cracked him over the head with it. It's an old school self-defense technique from judo, from the judo kata. It's actually in the judo kata.
The self-defense kata that nobody does anymore, and they should be at every school around the world.
Yeah.
So, do you remember were you in front of the gun or behind the elbow again? What did you do? What was the technique? Do you remember? He went for
the gun on the dresser, and when he turned, because you have to control the arm. Whenever you're controlling a weapon, you have to control. I'm an ASP instructor also, an ASP baton instructor, and they would always call this the weapon delivery system, because that's what if a guy's going to kill you, he's going to kill you with these.
So you got to go 2-on-1 on the weapon hand.
2-on-1, a Russian.
Yeah.
Either a Russian on the arm or you got to get your two hands on his one. Always 2-on-1.
So in a way, me and you are both kind of the subject matter as experts with our live grappling background, our judo, our jiu-jitsu, but we're very good at the Aki jiu-jitsu, the standing locks, the kotagaeshis, the Russian 2-on-1 elbow snapper, I call it.
Right.
I mean, both Ray and me, we're both very good at that stuff, and that's real applicable, real save your butt. A guy's got a knife, a guy's got a gun. That's the stuff that can really save your butt, and people don't believe it. And yet, I got this video out called Real Steven Seagal Aikido versus MMA BJJ fighters.
And handcuffs.
And you can see me in grappling live, and even one of those Russian 2-on-1s. I brought the guy's head down. I could have snapped it during kickboxing, during MMA sparring. During MMA sparring, you could see me even with gloves on do it to a guy.
That's for the guys out there. That's actually how Dan and I kind of were steered into each other because of mutual friends. Are like, you got to talk to this guy. He does everything like you, and you got to talk to this guy. He does everything like you, and that's how we kind of came to a meeting of the minds.
And so the naysayers out there, they just don't get it. They just don't have the real experience. There's keyboard warriors. They don't have it. What's really going on?
And I understand a lot of it. A lot of it's internet shit. And keyboard warriors. But a lot of it's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's a lot of, people have they get locked into thinking one way, and that's where the disconnect for me has always come in. I was very fortunate, Danny. My instructors steered me always into the police department, and I had a wonderful career there, and I got to do all this exciting stuff and being in Central, being on top of a building, doing raids and crowd control and doing all this stuff that people write stories and movies about.
Well, people should write a story on both of us, maybe. I'll tell you, when I had a gun pointed at my head, all of a sudden, I just instinctively got off the center line and snatched it. I didn't do no cool both hand technique, Krav Maga thing. I just boom, and I snatched it out of their hand.
And what does that come from?
I kind of
repetition.
Yeah, I mean, that instinctiveness through my nervous system. I kind of credit my experience with Sistema to that a bit, because it was just direct and non-telegraphic, and it was just instinctive. I didn't think. All of a sudden, I realized the gun at my head, pistol at my head, and I just snatched it out of their hand.
I was working in a bar in Sullivan Street in the Village, and I was working with this jiu-jitsu black belt, Artie Ubring, great guy, great kid, Artie. And I had thrown this guy out. It's got Coney Island crowd. Coney Island dancers were there. In this place, we had all different crowds. I love Coney Island. I'm a big Coney Island guy. Anyway, I had thrown this one guy. This guy was always problems. And I threw him out. And again, Tayatoshi again. I threw him out with a Tayatoshi. And kicked him out of the bar. And this was like banned for life now at this point. This guy had problems and problems and problems and problems and problems. Anyway, he comes back, and just out of the corner of my eye, I see him coming, and boy, he threw that punch. I ducked, and he hit Artie. Poor Artie. But it's because we practice that, and you have street smarts, and you're aware. You know, when you're sitting, your back's to the wall, or you're sitting in a restaurant and you're sitting by you want the table by the kitchen, so you can get out the back door if you have to.
Yeah, it's always first dates are weird for me because the girl goes to sit down. I'm like, hey, can I have that? And then they think I'm like a control, but I mean, kind of am a control freak, but they don't understand why.
Part of your OCD. It's it becomes ingrained in you.
Yeah.
Like we don't do martial arts anymore. We are martial arts.
Yeah, it's us. We're the system. We're the martial art.
Exactly.
We're what works, not this style, that style, this style sucks, all that low-level BS that other people talk about. But it's my nervous system, so I can react. It's the OODA loop is a lot quicker than most people. It's just instinctive.
You know what? I'm almost 60, so I don't move like I used to.
Yeah.
And I was real sick, as you know. I almost died a few months ago.
Yeah, guys, even when you see Ray in those videos, he
oh, my God. Yeah, I'm looking at it. I'm going, oh, my God. Look how terrible I was.
But he's a fighter like no one else. Ray's back. And you're teaching again and all that. It's amazing.
I'm just happy to be breathing again. For people that don't know, I'd gotten double pneumonia. I dropped 20 kilos in a month and a half, and I got COVID in the hospital. While I was in the hospital, I got COVID. And
man, I'm really happy that you're here, able to talk with me now.
Now I'm starting to get back into a little bit of reasonable shape, and I can move again.
Don't worry, guys. We're gonna get to all the stars he bodyguarded, going over to Afghanistan. Stay tuned. We got a whole bunch of stuff. We're gonna go deeper into your martial art background, and maybe talk old school versus new school jiu-jitsu and all that. So stay tuned, everybody. So, I want to hear about the sniper story, and if you got any other like violent felony arrest stories. How many arrests have you made? How many felony arrests have you made, and violent felons have you put away?
Well, I did mostly warrant arrests. I'm not going to include my regular arrests, just a warrant. So in warrant arrests, I had about 2,000 warrant arrests. That's where I spent most of my activity in my career. So I had about 2,000 warrant arrests, 700 felonies, and then 300 violent felons. You know, of all different types. If it was my buddy Charlie did the wows, and I would go out and help them out. At the end of my career, I would be in the courthouse. I ran out of the courthouse, and then whenever we did a heavy hit, they would take me out, and I would go do the hit, and then go back to processing.
Now, these guys that know they're looking at serious time because they already got a violent felony arrest going for them, whether that's carrying a pistols and automatic, tack on 5 years?
Guns, drugs, rape, robbery.
Yeah, so these guys are more likely to fight back because they know they're about to they're going to do a good bid.
These are the 2%, 1% of the guys that are going to kill you.
So when you're going in on a raid, you got the warrant for the house. You're going in hot. You're going in knowing that, man, these are the guys that are going to pull a gun right away.
My gun rarely came out of my holster. I was in a couple of gunfights, but that was out on the street. But whenever we went in, this was my weapons. My job was to put everybody in handcuffs and take them out.
Your gun probably left the holster even less because you have the awareness and the training of martial arts where you can handle things, so you got less fear. I think all cops should be trained in judo or jiu-jitsu. All this reform stuff, whatever, it's better for the cops for their survivability.
But I had my shooters behind me, though.
Yeah. Of course, you got to have lethal. You got to have lethal coverage, whether you're going hands-on with someone or whether you're going tasers, which don't friggin' work at all half the time.
I'm not I don't like tasers.
I've never met a cop that did like tasers.
Pepper spray. I've seen a lot of good work with pepper spray.
Yeah, pepper spray, baton, saps, but now they're trying to take the saps away from you. You know, there's too much lawsuits and all this. A lot of BS going on. But anyway,
do work, but you can't. For handcuffing, I'd rather put my hands on them. It's safer for them. It's safer for them. It's safer for me.
It's safer for them, all these naysayers. It's safer for them, even the thugs. It's safer for them, and it's safer for the cop. And besides that, if every cop was training an hour and a half at least, a judo or jiu-jitsu each week, if that was mandated, if they were paid,
you wouldn't have the mess you have now.
And that helps with their PTSD and their stress.
Absolutely. But you wouldn't have the mess you have now with the public either.
And it makes everybody safer.
Everybody.
And it's going to help them probably in their marriages and the suicide rate and all that. I think cops should be training judo or Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Absolutely.
The problem is training. My fear with making, because I worked, I was an adjunct. Ralph, who I talked about, who became a cop, he wound up being the founder of the tactical training unit for the NYPD.
Well, I don't know if you know, I just went through a SWAT school myself.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
So guys, please watch my SWAT videos. Like, give me, that doesn't happen every day. Give me some love, give me some likes, give me some comments down below, because obviously the
I'm going to send you a good school to go to next.
Okay. Wait, yeah, let's do that. We got to get to the sniper story.
Okay, yeah. So, we were. I was when I went on my honeymoon. Went to Disney World with my wife Chen, and when I was in the bar, I'm watching TV in an Italian restaurant in Disney World in Epcot Center, and I'm having a nice glass of wine, and I look up, and I see the SNU team, the Street Narcotics Unit that I was in, on TV. A prisoner died in their custody. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it. So I'm like, turn this up. Fast forward, they were cleared of all the charges, and they were back on the street. Their very first night back on the street. So I was in warrants by this time. I left the SNU unit. I was in the 120th precinct. I went to the warrant. I was in the warrant unit now. They started their own warrant unit for Staten Island. But these guys was their first night out back on the street. So I'm like, I want to go hang out with them, my boys. So John Mahoney, Slip, a.k.a. Slip Mahoney, Donnie Brown, and Greg Gerson, were all the ones that were charged in that the unfortunate demise of their prisoner.
Okay.
The guy, he was on coke. He had a heart condition, and he had died on the way to the hospital.
Yeah, when people freak out about this stuff, they don't bother to wait. They let the media manipulate them. They don't bother to wait to look at the facts that the guys are on all kinds of drugs.
They went through the ringer.
And all that.
And these are great guys. So I went down. They were doing a buy and bust in an area in Bowen Street, 55 Bowen Street, down in Park Hill, down by the Park Hill projects. So I went down there. I was like, "Hey, Slippy," he said, "What's going on?" So he was hitting me, but we couldn't find the product. So we know they're selling, but we can't get their product. So I said, "I'll tell you what." I was with this other kid, Tony, from the precinct. Wasn't my regular partner, but I said, "Listen, I got all my ninja gear in the car." I said, "We'll go up on the roof. We'll set up an OP." So
an operations post.
Put the ninja hood on, right? All ninja'd out, all the black gear. And we'll set up our observation. OP is an observation post, guys. So we set up our observation post on the roof. And when you guys leave, they'll go back to business. We'll see where the stash is. And then I'll call you on the radio. You guys charge back in. You grab them. Game over. We got them. Okay, so that's the plan. So Tony and I go up on the roof. And Tony's like this. We're like the same size. He's African-American. I'm Spanish, Irish, but we're like bookends, stocky football player. So we're all in our ninja gear, balaclavas. We set up, we have the binoculars out, and I hear the door behind me kick open. And I'm like, what's the SWAT team doing up here? It's not the SWAT team. I saw the outline of a guy, and he's got a rifle in his hand. It took me a second to put it together. My brain was not happy.
Whoa.
I was like, this guy's not the SWAT team. Holy shit, this guy's got a rifle. So I knew that he was night blind for a moment. You know what I mean? His eyes hadn't adjusted because he just came from the real bright lights of the staircase out onto the pitch black roof. So I'm down low, so I know he can't see me because I'm all in black against the black wall. And as soon as he got close enough, I charged him. I gave him his first judo lesson. I
First lesson's free.
But I could have shot him and killed him, but osoto, boom, with the revolver under his jaw, boom, old school, like self-defense style.
Yeah.
And so instead of the clean osoto under the jaw on his head,
tilt his head back with the revolver.
No, with the frame under the jaw.
So World War II combative style.
I buffaloed people with my gun. I rarely shot them.
You hit them with the earth. You hit them with the concrete of the roof.
Either that or my radio. I became better. The Motorola radios. I must have cost them like hundreds of thousands of dollars in batteries.
So you don't know who this friggin' guy is. Suddenly he's up there with a rifle.
Up there with a rifle with a scope.
And you slam him. You run up your osoto guy. And what happened after that?
Kotagaeshi and dump him on his head again. Because now the rifle's gone. Tony kicked the rifle out of his hand.
So who the hell is this guy?
Well, it turned out so. The guys that we were after were all Bloods members. So the head of the Blood crew there had sent for this guy. This guy was an ex-Senegalese army soldier.
Oh.
So, but he was a Blood member. He was a made member in the gang. So they sent him up on the roof to kill Mahoney or Donnie Brown.
So they were going after the cops.
They were going after the cops. Yeah, they were directly going to kill him for killing Case. For Case having died in a year earlier.
Yeah, sounds a lot like some of the BS other people have gone on, even though they don't realize they're on coke, meth, fentanyl, and
if you watch,
they don't care about the facts.
Wu-Tang Clan videos, Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
All right, so if you watch video, Donnie and Greg are in that. They're in one of their videos coming up the staircase. Look at it. That's the neighborhood we were in. Wu-Tang was there. There's all Bloods. No Crips. It was all Bloods there, and you had some Latin Kings mixed in, but that was all Bloods in that neighborhood.
Man. So you get that guy into custody. You and your partner. You just happen to be on the same roof.
We weren't even supposed to be there.
And
we weren't with them.
This guy cop to that he was going to go
hang out with them? I'm sorry.
Does he cop to the fact he was going up there to kill cops? What happened with the guy?
He cooperated later.
Okay. Man.
I don't mind saying because he broke his cooperation agreement, so. He cooperated. Saku McGill.
You got some crazy stories. And during this time, you were also bouncing at some of the clubs in New York.
Yeah, I bounced all over.
We talking
90s and in 2010 too. When I retired from when I came back from Afghanistan, I managed Sullivan Hall, Sullivan Room Security.
Wait, so you're talking you were bouncing 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s?
Yeah, I never stopped bouncing on the side. You don't make a lot of money.
Yeah,
I was honest, so I didn't steal any.
Now,
so, even though you're not supposed to technically be working in a nightclub. That's the easiest way to make money. So,
you're talking disco in the late 70s. You're talking Studio 54 stuff.
Well, no, I've been to 54. I've been to 54. I've been there, but mostly the rock clubs and the disco clubs, the Tunnel, Limelight, and Staten Island, Wave Street or the Red Spot. In Brooklyn, I worked a few of the night spots there.
And then in the 80s, they're all on coke and crack. It had to be pretty scrappy sometimes.
Oh, yeah. And then, my friends worked in other clubs. So you'd go see them. My buddy Jerry and my boy Jerry Adams. I love you, Jerry. Love you, Jerry, if you're watching. My boy Jerry, my buddy Sam. Sam was a Goju guy. Just passed away a couple of years ago.
So kind of a combination of the judo delivery system plus the more like Aki Jiu-Jitsu type, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu type stuff, the standing locks, the arm bars, and all of that. Is that kind of what served you well throwing guys out? I'm assuming some big guys would occasionally try to fight you or say I ain't leaving the club.
Yeah, you and I about this. You're 5'10", I'm 5'10".
Yeah,
I'm like 205. I always run around 205. That's my weight. That's always fight it that way. I fought under 100 kilos in judo. I fought cruiserweight in when I boxed. But I always fought the heavyweights. I was a short guy fighting the heavyweights.
yeah. Meaning only occasionally you try not to hit the guys if your judo and jiu-jitsu would work and you could throw them out.
Well, if you're a bouncer,
if you had to throw hands, you throw hands.
The last thing you want to do as a bouncer is hit somebody. And the last thing you want to do as a cop is hit somebody. Not for nothing. It looks bad. It hurts your hands. So punching him in the face, and it doesn't look good.
Yeah, I got someone's tooth in one of my right there. I got a little tooth scar there, and people's faces are all mouths are dirty.
That's punching the guy one too many times, and you broke your hand on his head,
and you get infections and stuff. So yeah, cops should definitely learn. There's only jiu-jitsu or judo.
I think for cops, honestly, for me, the best combination I think is judo and boxing.
Yeah.
Cops.
Let's talk a little bit. You want to talk about some of your boxing background and the guys you train with?
Yeah, whatever you guys want to talk about. You guys want to hear it? I'm happy to talk. I'll talk all night. I don't get to speak too much English here, so I'll talk all night.
So one guy asked. We'll get a question. We'll get a questions at the end, guys, for the most part. But one guy, Evan, asked, "Do you think the police training is what it should be?" And then let's hear about your boxing background and some of the guys you trained with.
I started boxing in the YMCA. Well, let me back up a little bit. I was in the karate and the jiu-jitsu when I was a kid, and so I was pretty confident in myself, pretty sure of myself, and I was dating this one girl, Dawn, sweetheart, and her two brothers boxed, and so I go, they're like, "You do martial arts?" I said, "Yeah, I do karate and some jiu-jitsu." And like, "Well, we box. You want to box?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So now I can't kick. Not that my kicks were ever needed to write home about, but I can't kick. And I got my first boxing lesson, and it hurt. And I was like, I got to learn this. See, whenever I get beat up, I go, I got to learn this. This is good. So I was getting, I looked like the bobblehead on the back of the car, with jabs. So I was like, I learned my lesson. I said, okay, I need to go learn how to box. So I went to the YMCA. I started boxing there. And then later on, Eddie Acevedo. Eddie did judo in Manhattan. He worked up in the Lower East Side up at 8th Street Boxing Gym up there. And his son actually was Nick Acevedo. He was on the Contender Show. He was WBO champ, WBA champ. And so that whole family, wonderful family, bro. They did. There was judo and boxing. So I boxed with Eddie for a while. I started boxing with him. And my partner, Patrick Barica, was 3 times Golden Gloves. I boxed with him a lot. And then I wound up working for Teddy Atlas, and I learned some peekaboo, which peekaboo for me, as far as I'm concerned, peekaboo is the best style for somebody our size against somebody bigger anyway. But for self-defense in the street, peekaboo is the best style.
So, how the heck did you end up with Teddy Atlas?
Through the courthouse. The Teddy Atlas. Teddy has the Dr. Theodore Atlas Foundation, which if you're watching, thank you, Teddy. So he has this organization named after his dad, and we do sports memorabilia, raise money for charity, do all kind of sport work in the community. So I volunteered. I did security for them. I helped run the security at the shows, and I would, safeguard all the, you have multi-million dollars worth of gloves and uniforms, and you have, Jerry Cooney there, and you have, Tyson there. You have all these, not Tyson at the time, but you had, all these famous boxers and everything like that. Before him, him and Mike started talking again.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm 5'10" and 3/4. I'm just shy of 5'11". In my military fighting days, I was 202. When I fought MMA, I was 197 to 205 without cutting weight. Then I was like 208. Then I was 218. And now I got COVID 1984 fat, like a lot of people. But
we've all got COVID 1984 fat.
Yeah.
Except for me, I got COVID 1984 almost dead.
Yeah, it was, quite the diet program. But I mean, obviously, Peekaboo, Custy Amato, Mike Tyson. I mean, so you're rolling around as a cop in New York, and I mean, there was 52 guys, and guys were throwing hands on street corners, and they knew what they were doing. It ain't like today when no one's fought, and all these gangsta wannabe thugs just pull a nine. Back then there was a certain amount of machismo and having street cred by being a boxer, by being a street boxer.
That was one of the 2 times I got the crap beat out of me by boxers in the street. Well, there was actually one time I got it. I was bouncing, and the guy turned out to be a pro, and he tuned me up good.
Oh yeah,
I won the fight, but I was losing it. That's the funny story. So here, I'll tell you real quick what happened. I was working the door at the Red Spot, and these guys come in, and one guy's too young. 2 Irish kids, from out of town. And I'm like, guy, I said, listen, you can come in, but your friend can't. I'm sorry. And he's like, oh, come on, mate. I was like, dude, you don't understand. They're real strict like that. We can't play with it. They've been checking. Well, it's not that. It's a $500 fine for the first one, and I get it. So I don't know you, and nothing against you, but I'm not doing you guys any favor. You're not worth $500 for me, and having to go to the courthouse and take care of all this, and so it ain't happening. So I apologize for me coming in. Anyway, the guy slams the door in my face as hard as he could, and I was talking to him like my head out the door, and almost got my face smashed.
Yeah.
So like an idiot, I go outside with him. Guys, if you're working in a nightclub or you're in your business or wherever you are, and somebody goes in and says something to you and they leave, stay inside.
Yeah, stay inside. Let them leave. Don't let your ego.
Whatever happens, it's never going to be good for you.
Yeah, they could always pull a knife, have friends pull a gun.
Or you hit him, he falls down, he dies, and
he cracks his head on the cat. I know. I've worked with some guys, and one guy cracked the guy with the right hand, and I'm like, there's good bouncers and bad bouncers. A good crew is professional, and I've never hit a guy in the face in my life. 20 plus years off and on bouncing, all over. No. From honky-tonk saloons to downtown LA clubs to whatever. And then there's guys, I worked 2 big clubs in LA, and at one of them, he cracked a guy, and I'm like, man, you want to catch that charge, manslaughter charge? You want to pay? He doesn't die. He's on life support the rest of his life. You want to pay those bills? Idiots, man. I hate working with idiots.
Well, on this day, I was the idiot, bro.
Yeah,
I was the idiot because I go outside with him. Words are exchanged, and he starts to give me a boxing lesson on jabbing. And again, my head looks like the bobble doll in the back of the car. And I back up and I go to myself, this is not going so good. We better change tactics here. So I threw a front kick. Shot in for a double, took him down and pounded him out. But I was losing that fight. Let me tell you, up to that point, it was not going good for me.
And you were a guy that was trained in boxing, but it turns out this guy's like a pro or something, and he's tuning you up.
Well, here's what happened. After the whole dust up, I go back inside the bar. I'm looking at my wounds and my pride, and somebody comes up and goes, hey, Razor, this guy, you guys dropped this. And he hands me a bunch of papers, and I open it up, and it's the guy's passport. And it's his pro boxing book.
Oh, man.
And it's fun.
Good thing you were well-rounded and it had grappling. You never know who's what. So all these guys are, that that grappling stuff is gay and you don't need jiu-jitsu. And I get these comments.
No.
Yeah, my video. Oh, you get your head stomped in by everybody. Well, you're boxing in Muay Thai or whatever. What if the guy's better than you and it turns out he's a pro? You better be able to shoot for that double leg. You
better be able to shoot for a double.
And down and pound him.
You better be able to shoot. I ripped my shirt too on top of it all.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give you a line that my sensei, Pisano, one of the best lines I've ever heard. The wisest thing he's never box a boxer, never wrestle a wrestler.
Man, okay, we've been talking an hour and 10 minutes. Let these guys know what your rank are in different jiu-jitsu, karate, judo.
I'm 18th level grandmaster of involuntary yoga. I'm 7th dan in Japanese jiu-jitsu.
You're 7th dan in Japanese jiu-jitsu.
Japanese jiu-jitsu now. Yeah, because I'm old.
Okay.
And I've been around, and there's nobody else left in my system except for me. So I just got promoted to 4th dan in karate by my instructor. I teach kudo too now, which I love.
Dairojuko kudo.
I love kudo.
I fought in 2 world championships, so you also are a black belt in Dairojuko.
Kudo is great for self-defense. It's good to mix it in with the self-defense. Self-defense, kudo, jiu-jitsu gets everything going.
Yeah, rest in peace, guys. If you don't know what kudo is, they don't know. It's kind of like street fighting, karate, MMA, going back to 1986, before the UFC was around in 93. These guys were already wearing the space helmet, gis, but you can headbutt, elbow, and you can throw, and you can do 30 seconds, and they waza judo grappling on the ground. So
shout out to my buddy George here real quick. George was doing the same thing before we even knew there was a kudo. So when I saw kudo, I was in George Guzman. He's over in Staten Island, Longview Academy. And another good guy. He's a guy that pushed me in the right direction. So I owe him a lot. I owe him Helio Seneca. I don't know if you know who he is. I owe him.
Yeah,
guys in martial
arts. Yeah.
So I'll tell you his story later. But with they wanted to know what again? I'm sorry.
Man, seventh degree in
7th degree in
Japanese jiu-jitsu, 4th degree now in
4th degree karate. In Kempo karate. Yeah.
And what about judo?
In judo, I'm 4th. I just applied for my 5th. Boris Munoz, who's the head of the Yodan Shikai, he told me that I needed to apply for my 5th because I haven't applied for it in a few years. I'm overdue.
And you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu? Brazilian jiu-jitsu?
I'm a first degree black belt in jiu-jitsu under Joe Capizzi and Henzo.
Well, F you, Ray. Way to knock me down a peg.
I got 10 years on you, bro.
That's true. That's true. That's very true.
You've done. Like I said, you've done. I worked at ATT in Asheville, and one of the kids I brought up is actually Steve Mocco, who's the head wrestling coach at AT&T.
I saw him at the UFC about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, Steve.
I interviewed him after an RFA fight.
Oh, so Steve, I'll tell you a quick Steve story.
Okay.
So when Steve was 13, his dad used to bring him every Saturday to come train with me in Staten Island. Joe Mocco. Him and Katie, his little sister. Katie went to the Olympic team, the judo, and Steve went to the Olympic team for wrestling. Well, Katie was on the national team. She went Olympic. She went national. I'll have to check with her. I forget.
Okay.
But they were both high level. So Joe used to bring little Steve, right? He used to bring little Steve every Saturday to come train with me. And I guess when he was about 15 or 16, I was tossing him all over. I'm smashing him. And I turned to him. And now, you got to understand, you know Steve, but if these people don't know Steve.
He's what, 5'10", 5'11", but like 50 solid?
Dude, Steve was beating up full-grown adults at 15 years old in tournaments, smashing them. This kid, and he had the best attitude of anybody. He still does. He's a wonderful dad, wonderful coach. He's just wonderful. And anyway, I turned to him, and I'm throwing him. I smash him, and I go, Steve. He goes, yeah, coach. I said, you know why I throw you like this? He goes, why, coach? I said, because in a couple more years, I ain't going to be able to. And then when I think he was about 18 or 19, he put me in a front face lock. I thought my head was going to come off.
guys, if you don't know, so we're talking about Steve Mocco here. Steve Mocco, I believe he's now the wrestling coach at American Top Team in Florida.
American Top Team, yeah, in Coconut Creek.
So world-class wrestler. He went in MMA, I think fought 6, 7, 8 times in MMA. Just a good wrestler, ground and pound guy.
Everybody
and a tough dude. So I interviewed him before years ago, 5, 6 years ago after an RFA. Very nice guy. And I said hi to him at UFC Atlanta about 2 years ago now, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And he's like, you know, not that tall, 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot, 250, 6 foot, 250 yoke. I mean, looks like, yeah, fire hydrant that's gonna beat the hell out of you. So we're talking. That's who we're talking about, Steve Mocco.
He's a gorilla without the hair suit.
So Ray, I'm just, you know, yeah, you got even a better martial art CV and background than I do. So it makes me a little upset.
Here's the thing. Now I'm gonna do a Jen Psaki and I'm gonna circle back.
Okay.
All right? So when I very first started out, here's why I was so fortunate. I go back to Seringano and Grandmaster Billy Davis, too. He's another one. Billy Davis Jiu-Jitsu. Old school, New York. You know, I used to go with him. I was his uke up in Harlem when he was older. And, you know, we would go around the circuits with, you know, Sensei Shaka Zulu and all the Harlem crew and all the hardcore brothers up in Harlem and East New York.
So like we were talking about, those guys, their karate was hardcore, their judo was hardcore. Even like these
the Haitian guys in New York, Haitian judo boys, Haitian judo.
And then when these guys fought, like in the late 70s, the early 80s, these guys from the pen, they were doing jailhouse rock. They would street fight in the park, like bare knuckle and throw down.
Oh yeah, dude.
We were talking. You would see that sometimes roll up on guys throwing down, and they were skilled, and you would just let them fight because it was one-on-one, wouldn't you?
And dude, we would have cash fights back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get into that. Hold on. We'll circle back around to
that. All right.
I want to go back. I want to pay my proper respects because and where I was fortunate, where you made good decisions, I was guided into good decisions. So Sensei Pisano, not Pisano, Sensei Seringano. When I went to high school, he's like, go wrestle. Okay, Sensei. I went and wrestled. I had my partner who I wrestled with too. And then like, oh, you know, I'm going to school. Oh, well, you know, John Pisano's there. Who's anybody know in New York from the 80s, 90s, and 70s knows who John Pisano. He's in the Hudson Hall of Fame, Hudson Judachikai Hall of Fame, Judo Hall of Fame, and he was my coach. Him and Muhammad Mak were my two coaches, and Seringano sent me to these guys. He's like, go train with Ralph. Ralph, you're moving over to the other side of the island. Go train with Ralphie. And Ralphie was with Seringano at the same place. I was Pisano, the judo instructor. So my jiu-jitsu instructor was sending me to go wrestle, sending me to go train boxing, sending me to go train with judo. He's the one that pushed me. And you know what he always told me? He goes, go train. Don't forget where your house is. Come back. Come back, visit, and teach the new kids. So I was, and this was unheard of back in the day. You know, it was always very clannish. You know, you just do Taekwondo. Taekwondo's the best.
Yeah.
Like look at Paul Rokas. That Paul. Just Aikido. Don't go to other Aikido schools. They all suck. Yeah. My sensei was not like that. My sensei was like, go train with this guy. Oh, you're up in Brooklyn? Go stop at this dojo. Go train with these guys. We would go and we would visit other schools. And they would, you know, it was fresh meat for the grinder when you walked in there. You were fighting for your life.
You were tested, yeah, for sure.
You were fighting for your life. If you went over to Yanni's over in Cranford, New Jersey, there's all Olympians and all world champions on that mat. If you went to our school up in 71st Street, New York, our judo school, which was New York Dojo, which is the oldest school, it's defunct now, but it was the oldest continuously running dojo in the United States. Maybe that was a dispute between us in California, but Kano was on our mats. Kano walked on our mats at Sokol Hall.
Really?
We got photos. You know, so this is how deep this goes in the school. I have a picture there everybody in the picture is either an Olympian, a world champion, a national champion, or a Pan Am champion. Everybody, from adults to kids. From adults to kids. Alan Kohei's in the picture. Joel Brutus, three-time Olympian from Haiti. Mocco's in the picture. Dr. Katniss is in the picture. He was a Pan Am kids champ. He's still involved in judo. 40 years later, he's the doctor. He wrote actually 2 medical books about judo. So if you get those guys, and if you're in the medical field, you have any interest in medical, get Dr. Cantonese's books on judo medicine. So I was very fortunate. I was very, very lucky. When I was getting ready for the Worlds in judo, I won the Worlds in '99. I went and trained with my buddy Paul. He was a court officer. Sifu Lim. Eng. I'm sorry, Paul Eng. My Sifu, my Tai Chi Sifu was when I was rehabbing my hip. But Sifu Eng, Paulie Eng, I trained with him for gripping. Chisao.
Really?
Chisao, lobster. Yeah, that's why Chisao is really, really good. If look at it, you're controlling that center line, right? You're controlling the center.
Real dedicated martial artists like me and you, we keep an open mind and we cross train. Because I got videos doing Chisao with Anderson Silva and Big Country Roy Nelson. I think I shared with you my recent in the park. This is not Goshindo in the park video. You watched one of those, and people are like, oh, yeah. Well, it's true. He is, but I gotta get back with Big Henry again, so it looks better. But I do the same things with your 6'4", 265 like Henry, but this guy's wanting private lessons from me.
You want to have the Seagal height. I know.
Yeah. Speaking of Seagal, before I want to hear about Seagal. I want to hear about all the famous people you bodyguarded. I want to hear about if you have any, kind of mob stories or these made men kind of coming in and out. Before I get to that, quickly about the street boxing and betting on Sundays in parks. I want people to know this stuff was real. We got Joe Rogan, who I used to roll with for 2 years. Oh, those fake kung fu guys in the park, giving these guys no credit. He won't even recognize 52 when I'm yelling at him from the stands. Joe, that was me yelling at. It was 52 because we Dustin Poirier using skull and crossbones, and we hear Max Holloway to his cornerman in the 3rd round, the great fight, and I'm there live. And later I watch it. He's blocking funny. He's blocking footy. He's doing skull and crossbones, 52 blocks, jailhouse rock, baby. And Rogan won't give him any credit. He calls them the fake kung fu guys in the park, and he won't give 52 or the jailhouse rock. But you were there live. You were seeing these guys throw with hands for real. Let's hear about it.
For real. Yeah, for real. It would, it was kind of like you have backyard beefs and all this internet bullshit now. But and it's not bullshit. The guys can fight. I mean, the guys are fighting, bro. They're stepping out, you know. But you would have this back in the day. But there was side bets going on. We're talking
early, mid, even late 80s, or it kind of stopped after about the mid 80s. It stopped because now they're shooting each other because the rap music, honestly, rap music killed the black community and thought it was cool to be slinging dope and shooting everybody. Before that, even the dealers in Harlem and stuff, before that, it seems like they had a mutual amount of respect.
Well, it depends on the crew. It depends. It's people, It depends on the people. But back in, when I was younger in the 70s, if you called a guy out and your crew showed up and his crew showed up, everybody would step back and let you fight unless it was arranged. Is it going to be the crew? Everybody's going to jump in, And then later on, it kind of de-escalated. Like we're talking about the mobsters, the Sunnyside Boys, guys like these crews. It was all in. You're gonna get jumped by 20 guys. You're gonna get jumped by 5, 10 guys. 3's my limit. That was my limit ever in a real fight. 5, I got my ass kicked, and my friends saved me. But 3, 2 is my ex Chin. She saved my ass on the last one. That was on our honeymoon. I got a fist fight on my honeymoon on a cruise ship. On a cruise ship. Only me. Only me. Anyway, well, let's talk about Seagal. That's another story for another day. So
before we go to Seagal, so even if you're working your beat and you're doing community policing back then, which I think is important. Nowadays, cops roll up on you. They're so understaffed, they have no idea who you are. But back then, they knew who was the scumbag. They knew who would fight back. They knew who was dealing. You knew what was going on. But if you came up on some guys in a circle and some guys were throwing down, you would let it happen, right? Or in a park.
Well, we pulled up one day, me and my partner. We pulled up and we're down by this cab stand on Bay Street, and we see a fight brewing off. We see these two guys talking, young tall black kid, and this other guy who was working in a cab place, Spanish guy, and the words are going back and forth. So they step out, they're going to throw down. So I'm like, Al. I said, watch this. This is going to be good. So we're there with the popcorn, you know. It's a free fight. Yeah. So we're sitting in the car. We're undercover. We're sitting in the car, and the two guys get out. One guy comes out of the fucking store, and they man up. You know, show my language. They toe the line. They man up, and it's a legit fight. Old school. Bing, bing, bing.
Did they have it? They had a little. I mean, they may not be pro boxers, but they had a little bit of skill with their hands, right?
Dude, the kid had skill with his legs too, man. He KTFO'd him with a high left roundhouse to the head.
No way.
Yeah, way.
The black guy or the Spanish guy?
Black guy. Caught the guy who worked in a cab company, dropped him. So he stops. To his credit, to this kid. Now, I knew this kid. This kid would get in trouble all the time. But he wasn't a bad guy. You know, he's a street guy, a tough guy. I liked him. I thought he was funny. So, but he could throw. I was like, oh, look at this. This is great. So, bing, bang, boom. Down he goes. We go, okay, we get out. Up, whoop, whoop. Hit the siren, you know. Now everybody stops. They're looking. We help the guy up. And the guy at the cab company's going, I want him arrested. I'm like, what? He assaulted me. I say, dude, I saw the whole thing. I ain't locking him up. Nobody's locking him up, bro. I said, you stepped out. You threw punches too. I said it was a fair fight. I'm not locking him up.
It was a fair fight. Guys, that's what I'm saying. Back in the day, people would have fair fights.
Fair fight.
Cops were a little bit cooler back in the day. They weren't mandated to step in and arrest everybody at the false accusations. Like
when they started making cops go to college.
No, I don't like people fighting on concrete because someone could fall and hit their head.
Sure.
But if you want to go off into the grass, go into a park, especially if you have mouth guards,
well, you can't do that.
Gloves. Here's some gloves. Here's no gloves. Whatever. Put a mouth guard in. Fight on the grass. Handle your business. That's a lot better than shooting it out with everybody and hitting three innocents.
Go to your local boxing gym. My son, when my son was in school back in North Carolina, him and his kid had beef. They had words. My son came in, and I'm proud of it. I didn't tell him to do this. He just did it himself. He comes in. He goes over to the kid, slaps a waiver down. For American Top Team, he slaps the waiver down. He goes, you want to handle this like men? We can handle it like men. Just sign the waivers, show up, we'll fight with a referee. All said and done, no problem.
Yeah, and I mean, like Ken Shamrock talks about that in his home. They would, I think, fight every Saturday. Here's some gloves, go out in the backyard. A lot of places used to do that kind of thing back then. Or you take in the street kids and you say, come down to the police boxing club they used to have.
My buddy still went to one back in New York, bro.
Really?
Back in Park Hill. In Park Hill, the project I was talking about, we had a boxing club there. Still there.
Right. So,
PAL has saved more kids than anything else. Jiu-jitsu and karate saved me. Kept me off the streets. Seringano kept me out of a life. I was dead of jail bound. I was bound for dead of jail.
So, all right, let's talk another 15 minutes before we take questions, 15, 20, 30 minutes. I want to hear about all these guys that you were a bodyguard to, all these famous names. I want to hear about you going over to Afghanistan. So, talk to me about when's the first like bodyguarding gig you got, and who are some of these names that you worked with?
A lot of them were people first were people you would never know: lawyers, diamond merchants, moving diamonds, or moving money, or lawyers' meetings. So a lot of this was high level, but it wasn't anybody, celebrities, which I kind of preferred because it was less limelight and less. You didn't have to be on all the time.
And usually nothing happened with those people. Yeah. They were just moving money or diamonds or whatever.
You have to be twice as vigilant because there's a lot of money. You're not handling as much crowds, but if things are going to go sideways, they're going to go sideways fast, and they're going to go sideways bad, and there's going to be shooting involved. But with celebrities, it's more, depending on where you are, what kind of celebrity you have. So whether it was Guns N' Roses with Jerry was the head of security for those guys. So I worked with them a lot. Or working up at the nightclubs with a lot of the bands. But on personal one-on-ones, I worked for Shady Records for a while. So I worked with Paul there and Eminem. Whenever M came to town, I was the shooter. Because those guys, a lot of them, they can't carry guns, or they're from out of town, so they're not supposed to carry guns. So we ran that professional. So he would have his regular team, and then I would attach to them as soon as they came into the city. And so I would be Marshall's body guy. I ran the car, I ran the crew, and those guys were the muscle.
So he had his muscle around them, but they ain't supposed to be carrying in the city. Get carry permits.
But those guys were good. They're all trained. They're all professional. They're all. But he had so much beef going on back then. Back in the 80s, people forget it was a dangerous time. Tupac.
Well, that's true.
Biggie, and all this nonsense that was going on. So you had a lot of the drug wars and stuff was mixed. Paul kept all that stuff, out as much as he could. But you still had the street beef going on with words and stuff like that.
East Coast, West Coast, and now you got this white kid, Slim Shady, Marshall Mathers coming around.
Mariah was lying. This is the first time I've ever said it anywhere in public that I'm going to back up Marshall. He was seeing it. I used to take him there. So that's all true. He's not lying.
So how often did you work with him, and what was he like, Marshall Mathers?
Well, I worked with him, but when the whole Gorilla Crew came on, I kind of had to distance myself from them because those guys all were, with 50. I like 50 a lot. Okay. He's one of the funniest guys you're ever going to meet. Hysterically funny. People don't realize how funny that guy is. Nice guy, good guy. But his crew, a lot of them were doing time, so I kind of had to separate from that because with my reputation and I was still working.
Yeah,
before I retired, so I didn't want to get caught up. I didn't want to get caught up in anything.
Was he a decent guy, Marshall Mathers?
Absolutely great. Couldn't ask for a nicer kid. Polite, always nice to people, always thoughtful of people. You could not ask for somebody nicer. The two nicest clients I had in the entertainment industry were him and Victoria Beckham, Posh Spice.
Wow,
she's wonderful, sweetheart.
Did
her and David? This is when they had the kidnapping threat on their child, on their son. So she was in town. She would come in. She would come in to see Damon Dash when she first started working with him. So I would go to Damon's house, take her there. We go all over. Be at the Grammys, be all over. It's fun, but I don't like halls and walls, and I don't like being around celebrities.
You gotta hook me up with some of these celebrities to start bodyguarding, man.
I've been out of it for a while. I kind of retired after my last ones. My partner, my best friend Phil. He's the personal assistant and bodyguard for Zach Wilde from Black Label.
So what was Posh Spice like?
I would do whenever they were in town. I was around. I would go with Zach, hang out with Zach and Philly. And then
Victoria Beckham, she was cool, very nice.
Oh my gosh, yeah, so polite, so nice, thoughtful. A lot of people, they look at you when you're a bodyguard. They look at you like you're a piece of luggage. I have rules. which she followed always.
Oh, good.
I don't hold your bag. I don't hold your door. I'll open the door. I open the car door for you, but I'm your bodyguard. I don't hold your bags. I don't hold an umbrella. I don't do this. So you have your own guys that do that. I'm your shooter. My gun hands need to be free. My hands need to be free to protect you. So, nice. And she was very, very good. I've fired clients for not following the rules, but she was always so polite, always so respectful, and she followed the rules to the letter. Same thing with M. He listened to you. And that's when you have a good client listens to their bodyguard because you're attached to the hip all day long. The last guy I had was, I think, I'm not going to get into politics. I'll tell you as a personal note, he was a prince, Prince Salman bin Abdul Rashid Al Saud, King Salman of Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
My last client. So I haven't talked about this anymore. I don't never talk about my clients, but I'm retired 10 years now from bodyguarding.
Okay.
So I bodyguarded him when his brother was passing away, when the king was passing away. So I was with him for 9 months with King Salman every day, Prince Salman at the time. And
in Saudi Arabia or in New York?
In New York. But it was him. He was there because his other brothers were still in Saudi Arabia running the stuff. And he was the mayor of Riyadh, I think that's how you pronounce it, of the capital at the time. So it was him and his son, MB8, Mohammed bin Salman, who's now he's the crown prince, Mohammed. Now my judo instructor on the other side, is Mohammed Mak. His brother's the bodyguard for the king of Morocco. So
you gotta try and hook me up with some bodyguard jobs, man. If there's any,
I'm retired, living in Vietnam at the beach. So
yeah, being at the beach doesn't sound so bad. I know. I don't think I would mind ending up in Vietnam or Thailand or Cambodia myself. To be honest with you,
beautiful. Vietnam's great. The people here are great. It's hot. I go to see Master Sauer over in Thailand. I go to in Bangkok Fight Lab. My buddy runs that.
I want to go, but it's still 14 days locking down in a hotel. So I'm hoping that will go away eventually.
And all the boys was over there. I went over there to see them at Bangkok Fight Lab. Bangkok Fight Lab. If you go to Bangkok, Fight Lab. You have to go.
So we're forgetting one big name here, and I want to hear everything you know. Steven Seagal.
What a nice guy. What a nice guy. You got the ponytail going. You need a longer.
I'm ready to do homage films to Above the Law.
Like Steve has now.
Above the Law and Out for Justice.
I don't got mine.
We're ready. Yeah, well, you're just jealous. I'm ready to do Above the Law and Out for Justice type films. We're gonna do hopefully someday I'm gonna do an Out for Justice type of film, homage film, and I'm gonna have some of the real made men.
Hook up with the Collier brothers.
I'm gonna, I don't mind putting them in. I like those kids a lot.
They're great
John
kids.
Wick, great kids, very skilled. So yeah, Collier Method, Red Beetle, Collier Method Judo guys giving you a shout out. Go follow them, Red Beetle Judo or Collier Brothers.
Good guys.
And but I'm also gonna, maybe we'll put some of the real wise guys, the real made men and guys that were around that era. I'm gonna have some of them in it too. It should be, Out for Justice, baby. So let's hear.
Back in the Out for Justice days.
People keep bugging me because
the green beret and the vest and the hat didn't work for me. But other than that, aside from that, I met Steve.
I'll tell you. Years ago, when I was a punk kid in college, I went to see Ice T talk, and I wore a black beret, and I didn't know why, but I'm all like decked out. I don't know. I think I might have had a leather vest on or something. I got my black beret on, and I'll tell you, Ice T, we go to get autographs at the end, and I'm like, I'm the only guy missing a lot of pigments there. Let's just say that. I don't have a lot of pigments compared to everyone else there. And we go to sign out. He was scared to look me in the eyes. Now, I don't know if it's because he thought I was crazy the way I was dressed. I didn't know he was a former Ranger, so he was used to berets or what. But it was interesting back then, and I loved Body Count and Ice T. I mean, Body Count was awesome, and you know, the beret thing made me segue into this. But you know, he was talking about, you know, that was Cop Killer and black helicopters used to fly over his house all the time, and I believe him. He talked openly about counting money in the drug dens in Compton back in the day. But now that he plays a cop,
He plays a cop.
now that so now he says all the cops are cool with him now. It all came full circle.
Let me tell you something. I listened to Ice T back in the day when I listened to all his albums.
Yeah,
I listened to. I didn't care. I didn't care. I thought it was funny. You know, I thought the stuff was funny. That was a street kid too. I grew up on both sides. You know.
Yeah, you have to be familiar with both sides of the fence.
I grew up because I was my best buddy Desmond. We did martial arts since we were kids together, right? So I'd go into the projects and he'd come to my house and everybody knew everybody, so they never messed. If I went to the projects, nobody messed with me there. He came into my neighborhood. First time he had a problem, that got straightened out right away. So, you know, because you had a white, you know, a light-skinned guy like me. They don't know I'm Cuban. A light-skinned guy like me going into the projects, you know, the cops are going to bother you. The people are going to be looking at you. They think you're there to buy it. They think you're there to do something. You know, but just because my best buddy lived there. So until they got used to you, got to know who you were, they were looking at you. They don't know if you're a cop, if you're a drug.
Yeah. I go to pick up Henry when I make the 52 videos with guys. Please watch my 52 videos. It helps out your martial arts self-defense. So Henry's a black guy, 6'4", 265, and I go to pick him up. And I did have an instance like they jaw at me all around because they're selling girls and drugs. I'm quite sure, and they like to jaw at me because, you know, other than the cops, they haven't seen anyone my complexion there. So I don't know if they think I'm a cop or what. And with everything that's gone on in the last year, that's kind of dangerous if they do think I'm a cop. But I went to drop them off, and boom, in the street I stop and it's night. And there's a guy with an AK pistol in his hand, and a girl runs across the street, and I don't know. I lower the window. I don't know if they're having a domestic or he's about to shoot her or what. The guy with an AK pistol, and I don't really want to have a shootout with my regular pistol versus an AK pistol. And I roll the window down, and I'm far away. I don't know if he can see in the darkness, and I don't know if he's about to. There's no other exit. So anyway, I draw my little pistola, and he yells at me, "It's all right, though, I think." Or it could have been 5-0, in which case I'm scared. They maybe I just got in an ambush to kill a cop. They think I'm a cop.
Or they 5-0 and they're out. So
I don't know. But man, it was scary there because you don't want to go pistol against AK. That's not a great idea.
Yeah, that's never a good idea.
So that's my most recent. I needed a pistol on me situation. So let's just say I roll by. Well, let's not say it just because, you know. Anyway, guy with an AK pistol in the street. So anyway, guys keep asking me on my YouTube channel and everything else because they know I'm the guy who can actually pull off kotagaeshi and my Nikyo variation. I think it used to be called Ayadori. I don't even know. For real.
I adore it.
I think so. So maybe you're confirming it. So I think... so I'm really good at doing that, and everyone keeps asking me, when am I going to go for my 5th black belt in Aikido? And my answer nowadays is when Steven Seagal gives me one. So you've actually met the man.
Yeah.
Let's hear about everything you know about Steven Seagal, what you think about his Aikido, what you think about of his early movies. I want to hear about, and was he...
Let me preface it with this. Everybody looks at Steven Seagal now, and the whole thing that happened with the UFC, with the front kick and all that nonsense. Okay, they look at Steven and they say, "Oh, this guy's a joke." And they look at his Aikido and they go, "Oh, this guy's a joke." They're only 70 years old.
Yeah,
he's almost 70 years old. They don't realize that how big Steve Seagal is. When I met Steven at outside of a restaurant, First time I met him in the parking lot. Spanish restaurant, Carmen's in Staten Island, by the ocean. He used to live on, when he moved to New York, he moved to Staten Island. He lived on Woods Arden Road. So his producer was married to this very nice doctor. She's a dentist. They bought Tommy Bellatti's old house on Woods Arden Road. I met Tommy a few times. He was the underboss for the Gambino crime family. He was killed with Paul Castellano in front of Sparks Steakhouse back in '85. When I was a kid. When I first came on the job. December '85, I believe it was. And maybe it was a little later. I forget. But I had met Tommy a few times. And so he bought the house. I forget the name. Nasser. Nasser's the producer. And Steve was married to Kelly LeBrock at the time. I love you, Kelly.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
That's the beauty in Hard to Kill.
Oh my, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That
wow.
Was,
let me tell you something. As good as she was to look at, her heart's just as big.
Really?
Her heart's just as big. Nice lady. What a nice lady.
So this is a house in Staten Island?
It was the house. Yeah, it was right on the corner of Woods Arden Road and Arden Avenue. Down by they had a private beach. Beautiful. Nice little spot. So I met him in front of the restaurant there, and we got to talking. And he's like, "Oh, well, I'm doing a movie here, blah, blah, blah." And it turns out I knew his driver. His driver was from the 122 precinct. Steve used all cops for security. He became a cop down in Louisiana. I was down there after Katrina. I did rescue and recovery after Katrina, and that was the same place where he was a cop, same district. He was a cop down there. Anyway, I met him there, so I was like, "Oh, I'm a judo guy. I do karate, Japanese jiu-jitsu." So he's like, "Oh, you should come hang out." Blah blah blah. Next thing you know, I was working for him a little bit, so I would do some hours at his house and got to train with him a little bit. If he grabs your wrist, you either roll or you're broken wrist. So if he grabs your arm,
he was pretty nice and respectful right away.
Very nice, bro. Very nice. And he has a lot of people coming up to him. But I was a cop. I was also a martial artist. I was the East Coast champion at the time in karate. 84, 85, I was East Coast karate champion. 94, 95, I was East Coast judo champion. 99, I won the World Masters. 2005, I bronze. We would do local tournaments every weekend. We would fight every weekend.
So Seagal, does he give you his number or what? Like you have a nice interaction when he first.
Well, I knew his driver. He was like, "Oh, you know Billy?" I said, "Yeah, I know Billy." So he's like, "Oh, but Billy, bring him to the house sometime."
All right. So what's the first time you go over to his house like?
Invited in, we'd come in, talk, coffee, hanging out. We had to go somewhere, so we went. We did a run, and then he was like, "Oh, you want to work out a bit?" And he threw me around like a rag doll.
Seriously?
Oh yeah, like a rag doll. Like a rag doll.
I mean, it's not like you were unfamiliar with the keto stuff because you're a Japanese jiu-jitsu guy, and you're a judo guy, and you're a karate guy.
If he grabs you, and he's gonna throw you back then.
We're not BSing here just for the video. You're being legit.
No, dude, this is legit. I don't lie. I got no reason to lie.
So where were you You weren't like sparring, but like were you showing each other techniques or?
Well, it was more him showing me techniques and me. You're at a front row. I've trained with some of the greatest martial artists in the East Coast at the time, and you got to remember. And here's what I want to preface that I was going to say before with the kids that you see now. He's 74. He's in his 70s.
Yeah.
But it was a different time back then too. You didn't have MMA. There was no such thing as MMA. Guys trained Taekwondo, guys trained karate, guys trained judo. BJJ wasn't even a thing until 99. Renzo didn't come to New York City until 1999.
Yeah.
Wasn't even a thing. You
so
had
for anyone that
arts, different guys. This is what you did. Now, Steven, to his credit, he's a black belt in judo too.
He's got black belts he's got black belts in karate. He started in karate. In fact, I have literally wrist locked people, throwing them out of bars. I just realized, and the wagon wheel in Lansing area, Michigan, in the very same place where he was a dishwasher as a teen and met his first martial arts instructor, his karate instructor. The very same place, the wagon wheel. I literally at 18 to 22, 23 years old, whatever, when I was at university, off and on, I've thrown people out of the very same restaurant / bar / bowling alley that he was a dishwasher and met his first karate instructor. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Also, these guys talk a lot of trash about Steve, you know. He's a star. You know, Steven can have an attitude. I'm not going to deny that. You know, I'm not here to defend him. I'm here just to tell the truth. I like the guy. I like the guy a lot. I thought he was a great guy.
So the first time you at his house or a dojo or whatever, he's showing you techniques. What did you feel?
What did I feel?
Yeah.
He had control. As soon as he grabbed you, he had control of it. He was able to lead you. You know what I'm saying? He was able to lead you. I like his tension. I came from Aki Jiu-Jitsu, right?
Okay.
So my Jiu-Jitsu was very, very combat-based when I started. And then since they sent me to go train judo and wrestling to improve what I was doing. Because combatives is the missing linchpin in most martial arts systems that you see now, because everybody's so focused on the sport, they forget about the combative side. The thing about combatives, and this is and Seagal, to his credit, his style is very combative. So this meshes into the same thought I have in my head. The combative style of martial arts is important, but you have to have a base to put it on. When I did it, I learned it the wrong way. I learned Japanese jiu-jitsu first, and then I started learning wrestling and boxing, and then judo, because we didn't have a whole system back then. You had to build it yourself.
Yeah.
You had to build it yourself. There was nobody telling you, hey, tonight we're going to do wrestling. Tonight we're going to do this. If I wanted to get better at wrestling, and again, I was very fortunate, I had this one guy in judo every year. It was the first New Jersey tournament. I can't remember his name. I was trying to remember his name all day. Anyway, he was a D1 wrestler. He would ankle pick me every time, piss me off to no end, because I knew I could beat this guy.
Well, in the late 90s, I had to do the same thing. You had to travel all over to different people. I literally drove all across the state, back and forth, just to train different styles with the best people.
Well, I was lucky because one of the guys that worked at my precinct, so this was 94, 95, all right, Harry Roberts. Harry, I won the 94, 95, I won the Empire State Game also.
Let me reel you in, Ray. Let's get back to Seagal and what you felt like.
This ties back to Seagal. So anyway, I wrestled with Harry, so he brought me up. But Steven, that style of Tenshin-Ryu is very, very street-oriented. Very, very street-oriented. So it fits in. But you have to have a good base in other martial arts in order to make the
I think to make the Aikido, the Daito Ruaki Jiu-Jitsu, the Japanese Jiu-Jitsu work, I think you should first study judo, because it gives you the strong spine.
That's my point.
And the strong base.
That's my point. I did it backwards. I did it Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If I was to do it now, it would be, and wrestling, it would be Japanese. It wouldn't be Japanese. It would be judo first as a kid. Get your kids into judo or wrestling. Judo or wrestling. Get your kids into judo or wrestling, then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then add in the self-defense. The difference with self-defense from sport is not the techniques. It's the attitude.
Yeah.
It's the attitude that you have to be able to gouge somebody's eye out in the street in order to save your life. Because the skills that you need for self-defense are the skills of a bodyguard, not a soldier or a policeman. It's a different.
Suddenly there's a knife or a gun or a sniper on a roof walking behind you, and you got to osoto guarding them under the chin to tilt their head back.
Right. But you have to have this. Without the judo, I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah. That's why
failed.
Other people saying Aikido doesn't work, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu doesn't work. Well, that's because that's the higher level stuff you should be doing when you're older, when you already have your judo and wrestling type of base.
Or build it in as you're going. Like with my kids now, I teach them. You get one self-defense technique a week of the Gracie, because I teach Gracie self-defense. I teach Gracie Jiu-Jitsu now. I have my own self-defense too, and I show my stuff also. But since they're learning Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, they should learn the Gracie self-defense system also. So I incorporate that into my sport training. And then for my closer guys, the guys at a higher level, I show them all my dirty stuff, all my razor jitsu, where it's the elbow shots, it's the strike to the jaw, it's all the dirty stuff.
Okay, so let me get you back to Seagal, because I want you got firsthand experience nobody else has. So you said he felt like if he got a hold of you, he owned you. Can you describe that in a jiu-jitsu term? Does that mean he has a very strong center? He's a tall guy. He never bends over. And if you watch his movies, he's throwing guys around with a strong spine and a strong base, which means in Aikido type terms, he has a very strong center.
And his
correct?
movement, and here's what you can't see, guys, and if you don't know, the reason why the hakama are there is to hide the foot movement. All his strength comes from his movement of his feet, not his hands.
Which is also timing and base and rooting of the ground.
It all goes into it, but it's his movement. Steven, if he got a hold of you, you were going for a ride. If you didn't go for the ride, you're going to be going to the doctor because you're going to have a torn rotator cuff.
Do you remember? I recently did a video that everyone should watch, trying to break down the techniques of Steven Seagal's early fight scenes from 5 movies. And what did he do on you? Because in his movies, early videos, all the great movies from the early days. And if you also look at the awesome showing his technique,
I don't know all the Japanese terms, but because it's been a long time. But the kotagaeshi,
okay, like Nikyo or Ayadori too.
Where he does the clothesline,
Uriminagi,
like it's the gari, but with the Uriminagi, yeah. Uriminagi, dude. I would. Talk about wow.
The way he does it is he takes your head off, but he slams you right down into the earth.
Right down,
It's not the flowing way that the Akikai guys.
It's like a judo throw.
It's just like osoto gari.
It's like a osoto gari.
Which the Collier brothers mentioned on one of my videos when I used to talk to them a lot. They said, yeah, it's a great learning tool. It's a great teaching method. It's just like osoto gari.
When I do my osoto gari in the street, I do it like Uriminagi.
Or in Sistema, it's the breaking structure and the head tilt, or World War II combatives, Fairbairn Sykes stuff. It's all the same.
That's what I came from. That's what I learned from.
And he seems Steven really like Katanagi, the head and arm throw, which I say is practical. I have a top 3 Aikido techniques every cop and martial artist should learn video people should check out. Katanagi head and arm spin. He also likes Shomenate, the throat shove technique.
And the Yubidori.
And Yubidori, the finger lock.
Yubidori. And for the police department, for a real fight in the street, Yubidori's if you break a guy's fingers, fight's over. So Yubidori's great.
So 100%, Steven Seagal's Aikido is legit, especially not now as a 70-year-old man. If you look at him in the 70s, Path Beyond Thought, and 3 guys coming to attack him.
Is Aikido the best way to go? No, but back then we didn't know. Like Yanni did karate and judo. My coach did boxing and judo and wrestling. I did everything I could get my hands on.
I want to hear you say it, Ray, with your jiu-jitsu black belt, your judo black belt, your Japanese jiu-jitsu black belt, your karate black belt. Is Steven Seagal's Aikido legit or not?
Legit. 100% legit. 100% legit. Steven's legit.
And then you started bodyguarding him a bit when he would go into the city.
He's the Tenshinryu guy with the shaved head, Chicago.
Lenny Slice disappeared for like 2 years. But Lenny's a friend of mine. Also, Remy, martial arts one-on-one, was kind of met Seagal a few times and underneath his instructor program.
Bro. Look at Lenny. Lenny's jiu-jitsu is hard as nails. Is it the best? And I've said this to him, Tom, I'm not going to say anything behind his back. I didn't say to his face. Is it the best methodology? No. But if you combine that with your judo game,
you should add that on top of judo or
jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And some good striking.
And all the black belts teaching Brazilian jiu-jitsu should know some of that stuff too, to arrest the guy, to hold the guy till cops come for real-world scenarios.
Self-defense syllabus. It's in the Gracie self-defense syllabus. If you look at the wrist locks are in there. The armpit lock is in there.
Yeah, Wakigatami's in there. That's in judo too.
In the judo kata, it's in the Gracie kata. It's in both. It's in both the self-defense systems. In the Goshindo kata, it's in the Kimino kata, and it's in the self-defense kata in judo, and it's in the Gracie self-defense.
Yeah.
It's legit. The wrist locks are legit.
And even now, but a lot of the Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys now, it's not even getting my guard, bro. It used to be we started rolls from closed guard. Now everyone just sits down like a baby sitting guard. I'm not saying technically it hasn't advanced, but when 5 guys in a bar or to mug you by your car surround you,
you already made 2 mistakes. You went to a bar, and there's 5 guys you didn't know. Don't fight 5 guys in a bar.
Sitting down on your butt isn't the way to go.
Yeah, no. You got to be mobile, agile. It's blows before throws. It's blows before throws. You got to be mobile, agile, and hostile. Don't stop moving. If you're in a real street fight, the worst thing you can do is stop. Unless there's too many guys, then it's get between 2 parked cars or put yourself in the doorway, the vertical coffin, and so they can only come at you one at a time.
All right. But the finish with Steven Seagal, was he actually around the neighborhood? And I heard he was teaching at a church. Was like, he's a guy from originally from Michigan, like me.
He was shooting the movie back then. That one in Brooklyn that he did. I forget the name of it.
That was Out for Justice, which has some of the good guys in it.
Not Out for Justice. That was Chicago. It was that was Above the Law. So it was Out for Justice. Yeah.
Out for Justice was in New York, and that's the movie that I think has a good script that I want to do I don't want to say remake, but let's say an homage type film to, with some of the real guys. I know some of the real guys, and maybe I'm going to get them in the movie too. Maybe they're going to produce.
I was training. That was the year I went to the Olympic Training Center. So that was '96. So I was with him for a few months, and then I went to the Olympic Training Center for 6 weeks, and then I got transferred to a different precinct when I got back. So I didn't get to work with him too much, but he's legit, bro. He was legit. I went to '96. I went to I was selected. I was with Mocco too. We were selected for developmental camp. I was the oldest guy ever selected for developmental camp in judo for the East Coast.
So let's finish up on Steven Seagal, and like you actually were bodyguarding him a bit, and when he was around the neighborhood when he was in New York. I want to hear a little bit about that, and then also mention Afghanistan, and then we're going to go to questions.
Okay, so yeah, with Steven, that's pretty much it. I got to work with him for a few months, and going back and forth on the set, and got to train with him a little bit. Got to train with him a few times, but he was legit, bro, and a nice guy. And Kelly, you couldn't ask for nicer.
So Steven Seagal, when are you going to give Dan the Wolfman his 5th black belt in Tenshin Aikido? Can we work out? I'm the guy showing that these wrist locks and stuff, and these standing arm locks, bent Udigarami elbow crank, Russian 2-on-1. I'm the guy out there showing I can do it against jiu-jitsu guys, judo guys, wrestling guys, professional MMA fighters. So, Steven, I want to meet you, sir. Sensei Seagal, I'm willing to see if Ray says you're legit. I know you're legit. I already know you're legit.
Back making videos too. Get Lenny off his butt. Get him back making videos. I reached
out a couple weeks ago. He won't really say what's going on. I said, if you have any personal problems, you need to reach out. Please reach out to me.
To me, anybody.
Yeah. Great guy. He said thanks, but I don't know what's going on with him.
I'll leave it there. I'm not going to pry.
But Seagal, Sensei Seagal, I want to know what's up. I want to kind of, a little bit take over the reins a little bit. I want to make some movies because America needs some macho back. They're all pushing to get rid of martial artists, to get rid of two-way. They're pushing to throw us over with stuff that's going on from another country, and they're taking all their money. And I think it would be a good thing for me to do movies in vein of Above the Law and Out for Justice and some of the people I'm hooking up with. And I don't know any other mob stories you got, and you kind of know they even like back some of his later films and maybe Out for Justice. I think they were the financial backers. Anything else you want to say about some of the wise guys back then, if you will? And then I want to hear about Afghanistan. So,
well, like I said, I grew up with them. I would see Sammy Gravano all the time and his sons. Everybody I worked at the movie theater. I did security there, so we'd see everybody come in and out of the movie theaters, with their families.
And at least with those guys,
I don't really get too much into the mob stories, because some of the guys are still in, some of the guys are still out, and I still got some.
Yeah, it's guys, if you're into that, I had Larry Mazza exclusive interview 2 days ago.
Larry was with Greg Scarpa. I had dealings with the Scarpa family, not senior, not the senior, but Junior and Junior's son. Had a few incidents with them.
And Larry just put a video out, him still kicking Bob in the head. He's 60 now. He wants me to come down and maybe do martial arts with him. He has a beautiful dojo and gym, weightlifting gym, and has a dojo side to it. It's really gorgeous. I might see if I can make it down there. He'll come on for a follow-up, one of these podcasts, Larry Mazza, and maybe even Johnny Lee. He's got
that's the Albanian kid.
Yep, and he's got a big channel, and so maybe I'll get him on in the future. I want to have all kinds of people with interesting stories on.
Eli was he was a wise guy. He was connected with
he was Gambino. So Larry was Colombo.
But he was Albanian. He wasn't a made guy.
Yeah, he wasn't a made guy, but he did as you know, he did a lot of work.
He was very well respected. Everybody knew. Everybody knew him.
He batted a lot of guys, and he shot a few guys too. So
more than a few.
More than a few. And I think
back
in
the 80s and 90s, guys don't know, but a lot of stuff going on in the mob, and a lot of Albanians started coming into New York. So there was a big crossover in the pizzerias.
And his partner during that time, he did a lot of stuff with. I don't know if you want to say it. It was in the news. It was a public trial. Was an NYPD cop who's also the father of a friend of mine that I've helped coach for some UFC fights.
Which one?
Well, his partner.
Not Dowd. Are you talking about Dowd?
No. Last name starts with a B. I guess we'll leave it at that. But if you do your research, you figure out and put two and two together.
We'll talk off camera. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. So his partner then was an NYPD guy doing a lot of these jobs. And he eventually got busted for it. And he's out now. But he also, turns out, he's the father of a friend of mine who fought in the UFC that I helped a couple times. So, anyway, guys.
The news connected. Everybody's connected with that life.
Everyone's connected. You went to Afghanistan for a year, and then let's open it up to a couple questions.
I had retired from the department, and 9/11 was not a good time for any of us. And I had an opportunity to go to Afghanistan as a trainer and international police officer. So I went as an international police officer for the State Department. And my specialty, of course, is hand-to-hand combat and CQB. So I was stationed in. I worked for DynCorp, but the contract was through Dyn, and I was sent to Kunar province, which is on the Pakistani border. But it's one of the worst places you can go because we had Kunar. We had the valley. If you ever seen Restrepo, the show Restrepo, that was all in our AO. I was up back and forth to there quite a few times.
I think that's the kind of
the Cornwall Valley. So we had the Cornwall, the cop. We had that, but J-Bed was where all the action was on the eastern province. It's about the center of the country.
Were you guys surrounded by mountains too? So you were
the next mountain over was you have Afghanistan, and then the next mountain range across the Kunar River. The next mountain range over that ridge is Talibanistan. It's really Pakistan, but we call it Talibanistan because that's where all the Taliban are. Every Taliban is Pashtun, but not every. Every Taliban is Pashtun, but not every Pashtun is Taliban. So I worked with Pashtuns. I learned some Pashtun to speak it. I trained the QRF teams and the bodyguard teams.
Quick reaction force, bodyguard teams, MPs too?
I'm sorry?
MP units as well, or no?
No. Just the QR. Yeah, I have my QRF tattoo.
Okay.
So
Very
I
nice.
trained QRF teams, and I trained the first bodyguard unit for the provincial governor.
Well, Ray, you've been there and done that, and I'm so happy to have you on. Let's open it up to questions.
Sure.
Okay, I think we only got a few, guys. If you got any questions, now is the time to type it, capitalize question, and then let it rip after that. Red Flint asks, is there any advantage to training Aki Jiu-Jitsu versus Aikido?
Yes, I think there is.
You think it's closer to the source before it got watered down?
Well, you have your Shitsune, which became Tenshinryu. I came Daitiru to Hakaru to Samurai Jiu-Jitsu, but it's a harder style. So post-war versus pre-war Aikido. Aki Jiu-Jitsu pre-war, the Yoshitsune school, the Sanko Dojo, the Hell Dojo, where all of O-sensei's people, where O-sensei came from. That was a place you got busted up. That was hardcore. Kano was Professor Kano. People forget Professor Kano was a black belt in two different styles of jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
There was no judo before that. It didn't exist. Judo was called Kano Jiu-Jitsu. He changed it and developed it so you could have a different training methodology. Before that, it was much, much harder. So and I'm not knocking Aikido, guys. I'm not going to knock you guys. It's just their training method is flawed. The techniques work. The training method is flawed. So when you're doing the old school Aki Jiu-Jitsu, especially if you're doing it like a Krav Maga style, because that's all it is. Krav Maga is kill or be killed. It's Jiu-Jitsu, Jew instead of Jiu. So all my Jewish boys out there.
You said it, not me.
My partner out here is Israeli. So it's a harder style of jiu-jitsu. It's boom, street oriented. It's get it done, get them out of the way, hurt them really bad, everything but the kitchen sink.
Which is what Ueshiba was teaching, not even World War II, even in like the late 50s. It was still very much the Daito Ruaki Jiu-Jitsu syllabus. People deny that, but that's the truth. It was the same syllabus. It was the same techniques. It was the same everything before it was he got older.
The style of training. If you go back to the really, and you know what I'm talking about, the good Krav Maga schools or the good Aki Jiu-Jitsu schools, the good Jiu-Jitsu schools back in
direct, fast, effective action.
And brutal. Everything is meant to hurt that person. Everything is meant to do it fast, efficient, and get them out of the way. Because you may have to fight 5 more people. You got to hurt them quick.
And I have faced multiple opponents and weapons before. Guys, Father's Day, 42% off. It's only like $46. Thank you. Happy Father's Day to you and everybody out there. Plug in my DVD because 42% is the biggest I've ever seen. Sometimes I'll do like 37. 42% makes it like $44. That means like 16 cents a minute for my 4.5-hour DVD. And I tell at least 16 real world stories up and down different level of threats from around the world. So guys, please get my DVD and review it. And now back to the questions at hand. I think we covered that. Let's go to the next one. What would you change about NYPD and police training in general?
Wow. Police training in general. Well, NYPD has more money. Well, they did until they defunded them. I would bring back the hardcore because after Sensei Gastaburo left and Dave Washington and all the guys from the old tactical training unit left. They left because they started watering it down too. Shit gets watered down. We don't want to defund the police to make them safer. You need to train the police and make them put the time in. My only concern is that because guys are lazy and bosses are lazy and it'll get taken out of the hands of martial artists. The thing about the tactical training unit was it was all legit martial artists. Ralphie only brought legit martial artists into that unit, and that unit trained the academy, and they trained other people from specialized units that were coming in, undercover guys, warrant guys, all the guys in specialty units where you tended to put your hands on people more and you needed to have better competency. Mm-hmm. The problem is not enough training, not bad training, and you don't need less training for them. You need more training. Money has to be put into training and time has to be invested, but there has to be, the legitimacy has to be kept at the same level. You can't drop the quality.
I think every police department around the country needs to somehow mandate and have in the finances. Every police officer should be doing at least one judo or jiu-jitsu class a week. Pay them for an hour. Pay them for an hour and a half of time, which is a usual class, and then you usually roll for 30 minutes afterwards. Real pressure, real things that makes everybody safer, and everyone needs to be going. Not defund the police, fund training in judo or jiu-jitsu. Every department needs to hire a guy sitting on my ass like me, a black belt in judo or a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu to coach them.
And yeah, to put them into legit schools so that they can get their training. Even if they can't train at the academy, they have to be going to legit schools with legit instructors. And that's becoming a problem now too. I don't want to see it go the way of ISKA or Taekwondo, the way old Taekwondo was and the way the new Taekwondo.
Big difference, right? Everything gets watered down. Okay, let's go to the next question from WooBear260. What was your proudest moments were you a part of? And I guess it's the both of us. So what was your proudest moment? Maybe teaching or arresting or...
one of them actually was when I talked about the sniper story. I didn't kill him. That was my proudest thing in the police department was not the guys that I put in the hospital, the guys that I shot, but the guys that I didn't. The ones that I didn't. That was able to disarm a guy with a gun without having to kill him. That was able to take a knife away from somebody. That was able to, somebody who was doing a rape was able to stop those things without having to take their life. Not having to use my gun was my proudest moment.
Very good. Plus, that guy would have shot a couple cops, so you saved their lives too. Almost like you're in the right place at the right time, and maybe there's something greater out there.
We have a thing, so anytime I see them, they have to buy me a steak dinner.
I got to save some more people's lives. All right. For myself, I don't know. My proudest moment. I don't know what my proudest moment is. I guess the few times coming to other people's rescue, using my martial arts skills or medical skills to come to someone else's rescue, like the 10-on-1 fight. You can listen on the YouTube channel Chadi, coming to someone else's rescue. That was an author and martial arts author, and he was my boss for Ultimate Athlete magazine. When he got sucker punched, and now I'm getting stomped by 10 guys. Or an old lady falls and cracks her head, and I give her medical treatment until someone else. Or the girl, when I was stunt doubling Sylvester Stallone, cracks her head open, and I'm taking care of her better than the EMT. And her eyes, and I'm like, she needs to get driven to the hospital, guys. And that maybe even that hurt me. Maybe that even hurt me from working with Sly again. I don't know. But sometimes you got to do the right thing, and you got to try to help people out. All right, next question.
Good question, Muba.
Vic Mayer, which Aikido style do you prefer?
For me?
Yeah.
I'm not really an Aikido guy, so I'm not really qualified to judge. But like I said, I think of all the Aikido styles that I've seen, tension's the best.
Yeah, Steven Seagal's Tenshin Aikido, it looks legit. Whether you look at him in his early days, Path Beyond Thought, guys. Do your actual research. Watch my video breaking down his Aikido and even Wing Chun techniques in his first 5 movies. Look at my video breakdown of Steven Seagal's early movies, fight scenes. You look at Lenny Sly, Rogue Warriors. You look at my friend Remy, Martial Arts 1-on-1.
Yeah, Remy, I watched Remy. I like the way he moves. Sometimes, guys, you have to remember, this is them working together. It just looks like bad judo sometimes, but it's not so easy to pull off a wrist lock standing up. That's probably the hardest.
Yeah, he did a pressure testing video, and I think I'm giving him tips, and I'm kind of giving him stuff, how to make his stuff even better and not turn his back as much. Hopefully, my friend Remy, Martial Arts 1-on-1, will do more pressure testing videos, get a little bit more judo and jiu-jitsu. He's trying to find someone. I'm like, dude, offer one of these guys. He teaches you an hour judo or jiu-jitsu 1 day a week, and then you teach him an hour of Aikido.
The best spot to wrist lock people from is what I call Wrist Lock City. I think you showed that little video. I didn't even know you had that one. So, guys, just so you understand, those videos are not for public consumption. Those are just within my team. I'm not a YouTube guy. So those are, when I'm doing class, I just shoot something. So I have 4 schools, so whatever. The other schools, everybody's always on the same page at the other schools, so they always know the technique of the week. So these are just little clippets, but they're not for a public YouTube channel. So they're not processed or anything like that. It's all, it's all, it is what it is. But the best spot to wrist lock somebody in is what I call Wrist Lock City, which is a triangle position. A triangle armbar position is the best position. If you want to get off wrist locks, that's the spot you want to get to.
All right, I think this is the last question we have, is just follow up on Seagal's done some seminars in Russia. This is from our Russian friend here. They've done seminars with Seagal. There's a couple videos, and Remy has them on his YouTube channel as well. So basically, they said Seagal's legit, not below their level. And as a bodyguard, what do you think Seagal could have shown guys that work in like security, law enforcement, police forces and stuff? What do you think Seagal has?
That Steven's best stuff is how he moves. If you watch, especially if you watch back in the day, watch how the man moves, how he's able to control the distance, how he's able to move in and out, how keeping on a center line, controlling the middle, good posture, moving,
just showing his center and spine, and then doing like Tenkin back pivots, but done with timing, right? Timing is very important with the movements.
His time and his movement, it's just his general movement. People forget how big this guy is. You got a guy that's like 6'5", moving like a ballerina. Okay, and I got one more coming in, and I don't know that much about it. Wally J, small circle jiu-jitsu and effectiveness. Wow, this is good. This is hard to talk. I'm going to say it. So now I grew up East Coast, Wally J, small circle jiu-jitsu, and know his dad, Wally J Sr. The Wally J stuff was extremely legit. It was good stuff. A lot more wrist locks, a lot more fancy, but I trained with those guys. I fought them in karate tournaments. I knew of them. Di Pasquale, legit, was super legit. Wally J's stuff was super legit. I was so embarrassed for him and his dad with what his son did with that no-touch knockout bullshit. It was actually painful for me to watch and to see him, unfortunately, wreck his dad's legacy, going from something super legit to that Dillman nonsense.
Yeah.
Terrible. Broke my heart for his dad and for him too. I was embarrassed for him. I'm not going to knock anybody. Like I said, when I want to tell whatever I'm saying here, I'd say to the face. It was embarrassing, bro.
But it came from the legit stuff of getting the wrist locks and like
finger
split holds and all that.
Dude, it came. Now remember, back our training was different back then. You can't march it forward 20 years. Was it the best way to do it? No. But now we know. So the thing is to put it back the way it was supposed to be. So base of judo, wrestling, striking, you have to have your striking. Blows before throws, remember. You have to have your striking and then put the grips and flips all back together the way it should be. So It's sport and then self-defense. Sport and then self-defense. That's what Gracie developed their ground game for. What is the Gracie point system for? Gracie points are awarded based on the positional strategy of a real fight where strikes are involved.
Which I think that's getting love. Now everyone's just doing leg locks from sitting guard, from inside position.
Too.
Well, dude, if you're going to go into MMA, you need to be working on your takedown, pass the guard, side mount, knee on belly, mount, take the back after punching their face off, and then choke them out.
No,
I trained with Gracie really good.
Down in North Carolina, I trained with the catch wrestlers. I trained with John Husky. I trained with Johnny Buck, Patrick Green. I trained with Brad Hanna, and Brad's under hoist now, but he's a catch wrestler first and foremost. Catch wrestler first and foremost.
Do you think guys should check out my catch wrestling videos? I got a whole playlist in each position in jiu-jitsu.
That's why I first found you, catch jiu-jitsu. I did catch. I learned catch jiu-jitsu. I met Billy Wicks. How many guys have actually met Billy Wicks that are still around? I got to get wrist locked by Billy Wicks.
Wow. All right. So what are your opinion? Let's finish off with your opinion on any of the top Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys nowadays, or even back in your day, or MMA fighters or grapplers.
Oh, wow. I mean, there's so many.
And we're going to make that the last question, guys. We're at 2.5 hours almost. So any guys you want to shout out? You want to mention anything about Renzo, about MMA in general, old days to now?
I came up. I came up when these guys. My coach Joe Capizzi and Silver Fox. They were the two smallest guys, but Joey was the first one in there.
And thank you for the retweet, Silver Fox, from both of us, and all the retweets you've given me about my DVD. Silver Fox, I love the way you teach. I want to train with you someday.
Good guys, bro. And Capizzi got a DVD out too. If you guys want to learn how to the one-hand guillotine, mastering the guillotines 1 and 2, go get Professor Capizzi's DVDs. World Changers, Game Changers. But these guys and the Sarah brothers, Matt and Nick, who's my buddy. Love you, Nicky. So Mad Monkey. So but you got Igor. Igor, I would go up to train at Renzo's. Like I try to get there twice a month, sometimes only once a month, but I would go in there into the Big Blue and train with these guys. My old judo training partner, he's a black belt up at Renzo's also. So we would train judo together, and Joe Gorman, Storm Joe Gorman. So you have killers there, bro. Any day you walk in there, GSP's there, who's there? The level of MMA has gone up, and the level of jiu-jitsu is still there. John Danaher is a genius, and all these guys. But I don't know. We were harder back then. Not in a way. We weren't professional athletes. Yeah. These guys are pros now. You have a different level where these guys are pros. But back in the day, and any day you walk in Henzo, you have some guy that you never heard of, bro, and there's plenty of them. And there's one kid, I can't remember his name. I was thinking about him all day today. He actually wound up working for that Ice Green Beret, a UFC fighter. What's his name? UFC fighter. You talking about him?
Military guys? Tim Kennedy or
Tim Kennedy. He actually worked for Tim Kennedy. There's one kid.
I had a dream about Tim Kennedy last night that we were rolling at a seminar together. Literally to God. I woke up a few hours ago and I had a dream that at a seminar he didn't know where I was, and he shot a glass double on me, and I got him in a pretty tight guillotine, and I rolled him over, and he said, "Asshole." And he didn't tap him, but he said, "Asshole."
I may have been a memory.
I go, "Hey, man, I'm not being an asshole." True story.
But the
guy's only in my dream because
I would see this kid wipe out all the pros. Kid never fought in a tournament. He was a money guy, young black kid, unbelievable athlete, but he wasn't a pro. But he would destroy everybody. Back then, it was like that. It was blood and guts, bro. It was blood and guts. When you walked into these schools,
I want to finish up with guys. I came up under a bunch of different Gracie schools and Machado schools, and that's why I was saying catch jiu-jitsu, because I did catch wrestling and jiu-jitsu at the same time. So I got to give them credit. Originally it was Helson and Hoist and Kaiki, but I've always been very cool with Renzo.
I was a high-end guy. We were high-end guys.
I've been cool under Renzo and Hoyler and Hickson. I met Hickson a couple times. I've met Hoyler a few times. Renzo, I stopped by Renzo's school. First time I was on TV was WWE Tough Enough, WWF back then in 2000. They played
Mike
videos
Tadros
of me.
was talking about you. That's where he met you then.
Who's that?
Big Mike Tadros.
Really? So I stopped. Oh, was he a cop?
Yeah, Port Authority cop. Yeah.
I don't know his name. So here's
Big
my
Mike,
story.
the big giant guy. That's
Did
my
he
training
say
partner.
I worked with him?
Yeah, it's my training partner there.
Awesome. I didn't know this.
Yeah. Big Mike.
So-
John Burke and Big Mike.
I stopped by Renzo's.
Big Mike is so big, guys. You know, he's lost a lot of weight now. He looks very svelte. But Big Mike is so big. If I was in the mount, I couldn't get my knees to the floor.
That's hilarious, dude. Small world. I'm so glad because I was going to tell the story. I stopped by Renzo's in 2000 because I'm in town. I'm actually staying, no money. I'm staying at a, shithole in New Jersey, wherever the horrible place is, and I'm worried I'm going to get jacked walking right across the bridge. And I take the train in to go to WWE, WWF back then, Tough Enough tryouts. My first time on TV was 2 months leading up to it. They always showed little clips of me, my audition video. They invite me to try out, and you got Taz, the asshole judoka wannabe, behind me talking crap when I'm in the ring. I didn't know it. Auditioning to Al Snow was cool and Jacqueline was cool. And anyway, I go to Renzo's twice, and all he knows is Renzo knows me probably from seeing my name on the forums, underground forum. And he goes, Dan, you know some street stuff? Welcome, brother, giving me hugs. I got great pictures with Renzo.
He's so sweet. Yeah.
So nice to me. He goes, you train with Dan Severn? Yeah, you must know some stuff. Go train with that big cop over there. And I take the big cop over to the corner. I said, sure, Renzo. I'm a friggin' blue belt. I'm a brand new blue belt, but he still knows I train with Severn and I fought MMA, so he shows me respect. Says, go, what's his name, Big Mike?
Big Mike, yeah, Big Mike. You had Black Rob. You had all these monsters, bro. Monsters.
So he says, he goes show that big cop some stuff. And I show that big cop some stuff. I take him to the corner, and I had this idea. Yeah, I had this idea called the spear. And I showed him how you could spear a guy into the wall or a car or whatever, spear him in, get inside position, and do a short blast double like Kevin Jackson did in the UFC, to do a short blast double against the wall or a car. You jack someone, take him down, punch him or kick him in the balls, and then pass the legs, go to knee on belly, knee on chest. So I was working with the cops, one of them, and that was my time at Renzo's, which was my spear idea, who I emailed to Tony Blauer about my idea about spearing into a guy from the street.
Heard in a long time.
Yeah, well, apparently he makes a lot of money and gets government contracts with my spear idea. So, hey, Tony, you might want to give me a little percentage since
Residual
I'm the kid.
check, right?
Yeah, residual, since I'm the kid who emailed you that idea about spearing guys on the street. And that's a true story, whether you want to believe it or not. But anyway, Renzo Gracie, much respect. I got along with Renzo Gracie.
We were high-end guys. And like I said, Igor was always my guy up there. He's a wonderful teacher. But I seen guys like back in the day, you would see like a lot of these guys, bro. You could go to a nightclub and Helio Seneca one night just get into a fight in a bar. You're watching a top level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion just mopping some guy up. You would see stuff like that.
Well,
if you went out with high-end, you were guaranteed to see something.
Well, I hope stabbing people in the butt cheeks to cut them to
but we don't. It was a different time. It was a different time. It was a different world.
A different time. And jiu-jitsu used to be hardcore in Brazil back in the day, fighting on the streets, challenge matches, dojos storming, lucha libre versus jiu-jitsu.
Next time I'll tell you my Randy Savage story.
That's right. You are Razor Ray. Anyway, guys, we discussed a whole heck of a lot. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Ray, I'm so happy you've been making a comeback.
Yeah,
and you're teaching.
You, thanks for inviting me. It was great to talk to you again.
I appreciate it so much. We'll stay on a minute. I'm about to end the broadcast. Thank you all, guys, for joining in. Guys,
if you come on vacation, you come through the Southeast Asia. Either if you visit Thailand, you go see Bangkok Fight Lab. If you come to Vietnam, you come see me in Da Nang. Or if you want to do MMA, you go see Arnaud the Game LaPont. up in Saigon.
Okay.
Or if you go out to Cambodia, you go see Fernando Salvador. We'll take care of you.
And you got something coming up. You're going to start doing some live streaming yourself, aren't you?
Yeah. My buddy, he's setting me up. He wanted me to do Live It. So it's a new streaming service. I'm technically inept, so he's going to be helping me out with all that stuff. But it's a live streaming service. It's kind of like Facebook, but it's more in Asia and California now. But it's basically I'll be able to take you through a whole class, take you through classes, full classes. But you get to hang out with me and ask questions and watch the classes. And
do you guys have a name for what it's going to be yet, or is this Renzo Gracie?
No, not yet. We're still in the works talking about it. So we're going to be signing a contract with them soon. It's going to be fun. It's going to be just hanging out, doing jiu-jitsu, drinking coffee and talking shit and traveling around Vietnam and seeing things.
And if people want to reach you, you teach at Renzo Gracie Vietnam, right?
I run Team Renzo Gracie Vietnam. We have locations now in Saigon. Da Nang is our main. Hoi An, which is about 20 minutes from here in a smaller city. And we're opening up in Hanoi now.
If guys want to reach you, is there an email or Facebook or Instagram or something?
I never use this stuff. I'm really bad. Facebook, Reynolds Garcia, Da Nang. You can go on there, or you can look up Renzo Gracie Da Nang on a Facebook page, or Rey Garcia 4471 at gmail.com.
Okay, awesome. Again, thank you so very much. Guys, coming up next week, we got the man himself, Viking Samurai. We'll be talking about all kinds of movie stars and action stars and things like that. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun from Viking Samurai. He's done, 4 videos with me, 2 videos about George Pagasic. If you haven't watched my live stream podcast with George Pagasic, very interesting stuff, especially at the UFOs and aliens at the end. It was good stuff.
Aliens are real. Aliens are real.
Hey, man, they're coming. They're here.
We all know now.
It's about to all come out maybe. So I got Viking Samurai next Sunday, probably 1 p.m. EST. Then I got Pro Wrestling Catch Author with Eric Paulson, Funny Man Matthew Granahan, Kathy Long. Maybe I can get her late July. And you see all the guys I'm just lining up already. So, guys, I hope you join me every Sunday for the Dan the Wolfman Podcast or DTW Podcast. And that's it, everybody. Thank you so much. We're signing out. Ray, stay on with me another minute.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Hope you had fun.